Hello. Welcome to the Absolutely Premier League show for the final time this season on the Absolute Football Podcast, because it is the Premier League season review that we have to talk about today. So we assembled. What a cast! What a cast! Impressive beards alone this evening. We've been getting bantered in the chat by the ladies of the pod for the lads team that we have tonight, but we're representing everybody. So I will introduce the fabulous panel we have tonight to talk everything Premier League. And it is man on the left who gets to talk about Sunderland in Europe again. We're taking every opportunity that we can to give that the moment. It's this Mr. Ant. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. I don't think I've spoke about it yet on here, so can't wait to talk about it. To be fair, though, we've got obviously Champions League, Europa League, Championship. So poor Dan's feel all left out. Hopefully Burnley might go somewhere, tropical for the pre-season too.
But
yeah, I'm all good.
Europa,
yeah.
When we got Europa, we only managed to get to Aberdeen, so I think we didn't get that far.
But yeah, all good. Had a really good weekend. Went to see lottery winners in the league. They're absolutely fantastic. So yeah, really good. Met Clark Carlisle as well, legend of the game, and 1% club hero as well. So yeah, all good, mate. How are you?
Yes, living the dream, mate. I'm not doing too bad. So busy week, but that's just a standard week at this point. So, but I'm enjoying to get to talk to you guys tonight. As we do have Dan say, sadly moving to the Championship next. We seem to have this conversation every year, one way or the other. Dan, you just can't stay still. You got ants in your pants.
I am. I'm just that loan move that I'm Jadon Sancho. I'm wanted at one point, then I'm not. Then I'm found on TikTok doing a stupid dance, and then I'm just lingering around like a bad smell. But no, it's been a bit of a whirlwind year. Lots of ups and downs, but yeah, ready to chat all things. I think this is therapy for me. I know you guys are going to be able to talk about, a lot of highs and the way the season has gone, but I'd like to think looking forward, things are going to be, like D. Ream once said, things can only get better.
Things can only get better. But have you enjoyed the season, Dan? Apart from,
I have actually.
Premier League vibes?
I have. Why not? The Premier League, the unpredictability of it, or the predictability of it this year. But yeah, it's been fun. It has been a fun campaign. I always look forward to it. You get there on merit, don't you?
You do indeed. And making the final part of the quartet, the main man in the left, Sir Grimmy of Grimmyville is here as well. Grimmy, how are you doing? And have you enjoyed your Premier League season?
The first half I enjoyed, the second half not so much. First half I didn't enjoy, the second half I did enjoy. I was
going to say, I think we support the same team as I did.
It was a lot better after the new year for various reasons. But yeah, no, it's felt like a very long season, as I'm sure it has for some of the panelists on here, Dan. But yeah, no, it's always good to follow the Premier League as it goes on. And yeah, there's been lots of talking points, which I'm sure we'll touch upon in the next hour or so. And yeah, it's gonna be good fun.
It will be good fun. A bit of therapy for some, and a bit of joy to finish the season for everybody else. But talking of joy, there are people in the chat. It's the wonderful Graham is with us. Good evening to you, Graham. Says, what a devilish handsome quartet you are, boy band FC. Look at that, Graham. Just trying to butter us up early, aren't you? Simon's in his way even now, because Simon will be in the Premier League next year, so looking forward to that. He's got a big summer ahead.
Sorry.
It's all kicking off early. Sean Z has been having therapy since game one, Dan, and hopes everyone is well. And the wonderful Shah is in the chat as well. Lovely to see you, Shah, as well. And welcome back to Thursdays, Dan. She's welcoming you with open arms to the Thursday. You see, you always have a seat. You have a seat on both shows because we know what's coming.
To be fair, the Thursday show is it's like Hotel California, isn't it? You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That's Thursdays.
It's exactly that. You're there for life. You're there for life.
Ruffle. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it. Line of the song.
We shall go on. We shall go on with some Premier League and say we're following the same format that Shah's been doing a fantastic job with on the National League. So what we do is we're going to prop up each team with a bit of stats and bits and pieces on the screen. We're going to talk generally about their season. We're going to go from the bottom all the way to the top, talking everything that's going to go on, probably a little bit chit-chat but as well about what's coming for certain teams. Feel free, give your opinions in the chat. Let us know what you think of certain teams. But we're going to start with a team that didn't go so well this season. It was pretty poor. It was pretty rubbish. And I'll come to you first. Wolves bottom and well gone a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, the stats there just showed all, doesn't it? No away wins at all. Only 3 wins all season. 34 goals shipped in, home and away. So at least they were consistent. But a lot of goals, obviously it happened early on getting rid of Pereira. Went on and did actually quite a good job at Forest, didn't he? But Rob Edwards coming in, trying to steady the ship, I don't think that worked. And I don't think he'll last very long next season if they don't get off to a very good start. You look at there, you always say about if you want to stay up, you need someone who's going to get you 8-9 goals a season, and they've got their top scorers joint with 3. It just that just sums it up, doesn't it? It just sums it up. They've just not been good enough, and it's been coming with Wolves. I think it's been coming for the last 2 or 3 years, where all the good, the players that they were able to get rid of brought money back in. That well kind of dried. I think it was just Almunia went, wasn't it, at the start of the season, and they just haven't replaced them with anyone who's any good, really. I think the 2 Gomez's are all right in the middle, but apart from that, I think they're just not a very good football side, and obviously finished bottom of the league. The bottom of the league for a reason, aren't they? And that's like I said, not enough wins, too many defeats, haven't scored enough goals, conceded too many. Where else do you want us to go?
It pretty much summarises it all, doesn't it? You've got lost to all 19 opponents they faced this season. There were 20 away games. You said no victory they've had now in the Premier League with 20 going into the previous season and 3 league wins all season. I mean, Dan, they're looking up at the mighty Burnley. They're miles off you. What happened to Wolves?
You know what? On the final day, I thought they were going to send us bottom. Obviously, we played Wolves at the last game of the season. They went 1-0 up with a penalty. I mean, they've showed a little bit of fight towards the end, but it's just to no avail, is it? I allude to what Ant said not so long ago, that Rob Edwards really does have a task on his hands. I think he came out recently and said that the bulk of these players are crap and we need to move them on. We need to do this. If he does not stick to his guns and say what he said and move these players on, he's going to be in for a torrid time. And I think he'll find it difficult in the Championship, just like he did with Luton. He's been there before. He should know that that's a learning curve. So he needs to, broaden his horizons, see what's what. I expected more of a Rocadare, however you want to call him.
I just call him Tolo, mate.
Yeah, Tolo. That's better. But yeah, a lot were expected of him going into this campaign. I think there are a few suitors in the Premier League looking at him after his stats abroad. So, yeah, a very poor season for Wolves. And to be fair, one way I expected them to achieve a little bit better.
Was an extremely poor season. They are well down. And Grimmy say Ant mentioned about Aït-Nouri. Obviously, Man United took Cunha off their hands as well. Sort of another big loss for them in terms of their attacking. It's just problems all over the pitch. I was going to say problem with a poor attack, but the defence wasn't much better.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the sort of past 3-4 seasons for Wolves, really, and they've just been hemorrhaging all the top players. Obviously, you've got likes of Neto and people like that who left. And the list goes on, really. But yeah, like there's no quality really in any of that Wolves team. I know people sort of rate that João Gomez in midfield, but again, I don't think you can really say anyone in that team has given any sort of themselves any sort of credit really going into next season, whether it's going into the Championship with Wolves or going into another team somewhere else. So yeah, it's just similar to what kind of we might touch upon with West Ham. I think it's kind of been a culmination of bad decisions made by the powers that be to sell all the best players simultaneously, not really invest it properly in any sort of good quality coming in. And yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of saw the writing on the wall within the first 10 games when Pereira left, and then Edwards coming in. The first few games didn't really see that much of a pickup. I think within the first sort of 15 games, everyone kind of just assumed rightly that Wolves were down. So yeah, pretty poor season overall, really.
It was a bit of a struggle. And Simon's saying Wolves knew they were down in January based on the fact they signed Adam Armstrong, who's a very good Championship player, in my opinion. Yeah, almost prepping for what was to come. But we'll move away because Wolves have probably had enough of being in the Premier League this season. So we'll send them down and move on to the next slide. It is, of course, Dan's burning. I put Scott Parker there because all the managers are basically who you've ended the season with. However, when I put
because you wanted me to suffer, Sam.
I did.
The season has not been harsh enough. You wanted to show me his smug Cockney face once more, didn't you? Just really wanted to just rub salt into the wounds.
I wanted to get the emotion of your season out of you. You see, it was all to provoke.
You have definitely riled me up, Mush. I'm giving you that.
I did look for pictures of you, Michael Jackson and Burnley, but all I could find was memes, and memes and memes of him doing dancing. So you've got a bit of Scotty P. Go on then, Dan. What happened?
If we're basing it on the Matt Jackson one, then if we had to pick a song title, it would be bad, wouldn't it? It has been awful. I mean, we see in there. Look at the top goal scorer compared to Wolves. I mean, first and foremost, I know this isn't a World Cup podcast, but how Zian Fleming hasn't been called up to the Dutch squad for his goals in a side that have been relegated and not really been firing on all cylinders. I'm surprised he hasn't been called up at all. So for Ronald Koeman, I think that's a bit of a joke, to be honest. And then talking of jokes, you've put his picture there, Scott Parker. Thank you for giving us quite a good Championship season the season prior. I will give you that. Even then, we still had our doubts because we weren't over the moon with the style of football, the way that the football was being played. We wasn't with Sean Dyche, but at least it got results. With Scott Parker, it was very much when it got to the Premier League, let's try different tactics. Let's try, putting 5 at the back. Just wasn't to be, didn't work. I don't even think we got the recruitment wrong. I think that we recruited players that were of a decent quality, and you could see that with how much fight we've shown in the last couple of games. Nearly beating Manchester City, nearly, getting something at Arsenal, drawing 2-2 with Aston Villa. We actually showed a bit more fight. That if we had have got rid of Scott Parker in October, or even in December, that we still would have left ourselves with a fighting chance going forward. But yeah, I've got to say it's just been an abysmal season. That has been. There's just been a lot of disjointment from fans to everything on the pitch, and that's all come from Scott Parker, unfortunately. I've always said that our chairman and the directors that we've got, they've got a chance to turn it around. They've got a chance to redeem themselves with the right appointment and things like that. But Scott Parker didn't. He'd lost the fans very early on this season. But it's not just with Burnley he's done that. Like I say, we know he's done that before with Bournemouth and Fulham, where his press conferences have sort of been backhanded, throwing the team under the bus. It's hopefully going to be a more positive campaign next season. But like I say, this year, just haven't been good enough. And I don't want us to be a yo-yo team, because we've been a team only not even 10 years back that had, 8 successful years in the Premier League, not going up and down like a Brad's knickers on a wedding night. Like, honestly, we need to be doing what we need to do, which is be that old school, rugged, northern grit, as we'd like to call it. But at the moment, we've been nothing but northern, and it rhymes.
Northern not enough. Do you think that's the big issue then? Is it you think that it's finding that style, committing to that style, and something that you feel is a way that you can play through the Championship and play that way into the Premier League and take that risk a little bit rather than maybe just a style to get you out of the Championship and then work it out when you get here?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, even the style we played when Vincent Kompany had his Premier League season, we played with an attacking intent, and don't get me wrong, okay, we got beat, we went down, etc. But we actually saw a team that was still fighting to try and win games. And I think that's the only problem we haven't seen with this. Under Scott Park, it was like, right, boys, well done. Here's another match week where you can call yourselves Premier League footballers. Go out there and enjoy it. If it finishes 0-0, we're going out and celebrating tonight because that's a win in my eyes. It almost felt like that. Like they were just happy to be there. I'm going to call it now in case any Burnley employees do watch or come across this, that I've been really just upfront with what I'm about to say, because I do believe that, and it's gone. It's gone. But no, I sort of believe what I'm trying to say is that I don't agree with the outpour of loving that Scott Parker got when he was given this mutual termination. He was tasked with a job to get us promoted automatically. He did that. He was tasked with a job to help us finish 17th and above. And I said in late February that maybe the reason he's still here is because we've still mathematically got a chance of survival. Once we are relegated, he'll be gone. Lo and behold, the club did do that. But you can't be doing things like that. You've got to be thinking about, there and then. If you've got to make cutthroat decisions, that's what you've got to make. And as a chairman, you need to stand on them morals. So stop trying to love your manager, treat him like a manager and not an equal. And, going forward, we might get things right. But I'm hoping that the next permanent appointment, is going to be a good one. I'm hoping that we can get everything right from a transfer structure. We're looking at a sporting director as well. But I'm expecting a lot of our players to probably move on as well. So it's going to be a season of high turnover once again.
So what do you say? So what do you say, Dan, that the powers that be need to take a look at the man in the mirror?
Oh, Grimmy.
Yeah.
Grimmy's.
Yes, Grimmy.
What's better is Grimmy's been sat there on that for 5 minutes just thinking, I'm ready.
And I'm asking them to change their ways as well.
Yeah.
No message could have been any clearer.
There you go.
Couldn't have been. Oh, with Michael Jackson puns coming out everywhere. Well, at least it beats my lamb chowder menu pun from earlier in the season for Burnley anyway. I'll have the lamb chowder. But anything, Gummy, and anything else to add on Burnley from a neutral perspective, or you just feel for Dan and his summer of change?
I'm just going to miss Dan next season, to be honest, from not being here on Tuesday. That's about it, really.
I'll just appear. I'll just randomly click the link.
I guarantee that'll happen as well.
He's always welcome. There's always a seat. There's always a seat at the table for our Dan. Graham says Scott Parker's the Jack Sparrow of Premier League managers. You're the worst Premier League manager I've ever heard of, but you've heard of me.
That's a fair assessment. Very fair assessment.
Fair dues.
I just don't know who's going to get the job, though. That's the one thing I will say. I don't know.
Still not sure. There's no favourites.
Craig Bellamy rose back to the top of the betting charts. However, he's then come out and reiterated, I'm going nowhere. I've got 2 years left with Wales. I want to take Wales through a home tournament. The front runners are looking like Gerrard and somebody else. But I'm hearing now that we have got a short list of 10, which then will be dwindled to 5. Then 5 will be interviewed. And then whoever the top 2 choices are will be interviewed by Alan Pace himself, and then the decision will be made. So I'm hoping it's going to be made by the end of this month. It has to be, because, like I say, the transfer window needs to be sorted out. Who's staying, who's going. Like I say, lots of video ideas and stuff for my channel to put forward, but I'm going to be busy on the old edits. I've already chewed my nails down so I can tackle it.
Does Pep not fancy it like that?
Burnley will announce it. I'll just get a little notification before Burnley announce Pep, and it'll be number 2, Pep Linders or whatever his bloody name is. Wrong one. You can't get it right, can you?
There we go. Burnley sadly down to the Championship. But we'll move on to the final team joining them, and it's West Ham. West Ham United went all the way to the final day. The win wasn't enough. Ultimately, over the season, struggled, manager difficulties as well, difficulty with the board and the club. Not a lot of positivity coming out of there. And they just didn't have enough. I mean, do they need this reset from the bigger picture?
I think so, but I do worry for West Ham. I really do. I wouldn't have them as my favourites to come back up. I think they'll lose quite a lot of players. Obviously, the likes of Bowen, Semenyo, not Semenyo, Man City. Some of you.
Semenyo's got in the bad graces of City. He's ended up at West Ham, and
exactly. Probably bad graces of himself. To be totally fair, we agree. But no, I guess I think they'll lose a lot of players. They'll have to do a complete reset. They've got some good young lads, Scarls and that. They're some good. They have got some good players and stuff. But I can imagine that Dan mentioned before, a lot of players who believe in Burnley. I can see quite a lot of upheaval at West Ham. And there's, obviously a lot of talks about Nuno, and I'm surprised actually Nuno said he'd stay, because I thought he would be maybe looked at the Premier League. I think a couple of teams might have fancied, because I don't think he's done a bad job since he took over. I think he's done quite well. Obviously, Green mentioned before how long the season's going. I forgot that Lopetegui was their manager at the start of the season. It was like, wait, was he there?
Was that last season though? Didn't they Potter? Didn't they?
Potter was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Potter, and I thought from the get go when we played them first game of the season, and they were poor. They were poor, and you think it might be a season of trouble for them, and it turned out it was. Obviously, they took it down to the last stage in there, but obviously there was Spurs who had the De Zerbi effect, and then obviously Forest who got away from it, got out of it quickly, but. I think the thing with West Ham is you just look at, and I think a lot of teams had the same kind of outlook, was because quite recently a lot of the teams that have gone were going back down again, and I don't think those teams have kind of looked at what Leeds and what Sunderland did. I'm sure we'll get into that. Obviously, we'll get into that later on. I think maybe they took that for granted a little bit. But. Again, you're looking at goals there, and Dan mentioned before about Zian Fleming. He got more goals than Jared Bowen. Again, it's not enough goals, not enough goals scored, not enough wins at home there. The home form is always been sketchy since they probably went to that Olympic Stadium. I don't think it's a very nice stadium anyway, but and then the fact that they failed to pick up many wins away from home as well. But winning 10 games and going down, it's not that often, is it really? But I just think because the league's been, a lot of teams were panicky round about March, April time, but then they went on a good run, like your Leeds and your Forests and your Spurs at the end of April, and that just left West Ham with a really hard act to get out of. And I watched them against Newcastle, and that was quite late on the season, and they just looked a team ready to go down. So unfortunate for them. Yeah, I think Simon's probably right. The David Moyes effect did a really good job there, and just because he wasn't the X Factor manager or something, deemed a boring manager, but look what he's done at Everton. He's done a really good job there. So, I think. But next year, I don't know about them. They'd be the one I'd look at and think, it could happen. It could be one or two things going to happen. They can either be really good, or they'll go down again. and there's also that stuff with like the ownership. They want the ownership out and everything. Karen Brady's resigned, hasn't she? So where's the money going to come from? They're going to be relying on player sales and parachute payments, but you still got to then erect a really good squad. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, I think, as you said, it's interesting Nuno stayed and they've managed to sort of sort that out and stay together. Because I do think that's a big plus for them going into the Championship with Nuno. He has experience in that league with Wolves years ago.
Yeah.
And they're going to get some money for a couple of these players going down if they can reinvest it in the right way. But something's got to change there because it's been on a kind of spiral ever since they won the Conference League. Moyes going, the stadium's not worked, the fans are at a bit of a disconnect. It's not been good. I mean, what are they short of? What are West Ham massively missing?
Where do I start? I mean, goals is probably number one. You think, obviously, like Ant was saying there, Jared Bowen, top scorer of 9. And I think when I saw the stats, I think it was either the second last game of the season or the last game of the season, he hadn't scored in the Prem since Feb. So, of course, lack of goals, like a lack of a distinct number 9 that's going to give you 10, 15, 20 goals a season. I know they're hard to come by, but, I think having more options who can give you goals is definitely something up there. Defensively as well, how many times did we see, especially early on in the season? I remember doing the watch-along for the Chelsea visit to West Ham, and Chelsea absolutely battered them, and it was like a hot knife through butter. I'll get my words right. And like it was like Ant was saying, like that. Those first few games, they were totally abysmal, and they're just bad all over the shop. I think they've got some good players in there, like your Bowens, your Fernandez. I even like Mavropanos, to be honest, with what he looked like towards the end of the season once he got a bit of form going. But I just think that those players that we're talking about are probably going to move on. I'd be surprised if Bowen's there at the start of the season. I know he's got that loyalty factor to him and he loves West Ham, but there's still a kind of a thing of, well, if he stays for a season and they don't come back up, surely that's the breaking point where he goes. But I think plenty of Premier League clubs would want him. I think I said last week, I think Everton would be the perfect fit for someone like Bowen to come in and give them an extra spark, similar to what Grealish did at the start of the season. I think, to answer your original question, I think they need a lot, but really having Nuno there will be a big help. And I think if they get the money they should get from the sort of 3-4, probably maybe more players that they're going to sell, they'll have funds to reinvest. They've just got to be savvy with it and not just spend it on rubbish, basically.
Important expenditure. It's always important. And also we've got Dreety's in the chat with us as well to join us for the Premier League show. So there's a positive amongst our relegated sides. Dan, do you see him as a threat next year? Come out in the Championship?
Yeah. I mean, you've got to, aren't you? The only problem you've got is that the Championship now opens up to 8 teams as of next year. So you'd like to think that there's more of a better chance. But I sort of agree with Grimmy that, but especially when you look at Bowen, I think he was interviewed recently and someone said, are you going to be here to get West Ham back up? And he actually said yes. I mean, I know that means nothing. And I'm sure that will be, screen grabbed, whatever, if it does announce a move by West Ham fans. But I could see West Ham having that sort of, like, where they still had that strong squad. No offence, but, like when Newcastle went to the Championship and they still had quite a relatively strong squad and managed to keep a few of them together. I think West Ham could potentially do that, especially with the manager staying. I think if the manager was to have gone, then we could have seen a mass exodus. But with Nuno staying, I think a few will stay on with him.
Yeah. It's not going to be easy to get out of the Championship though next season. Like you look at the 3 that have gone down, but you also think of teams like Southampton, if they continue on the trajectory that they were on the second half of the season, they've had that sort of body blow with the whole Spygate issue. But if they keep the nucleus of that squad together and they keep the manager, they could be on the up. Wrexham, they're probably going to reinvest again and try and jump up the table. So And like you say, Millwall are going to be thereabouts again. I don't think it's going to be that easy for these 3 drop teams.
That's why I love the Championship, because of the unpredictability of it. Like I say, we were looking at last year, a team like Hull knocking on the doors of relegation, and now this year have been promoted to the Premier League. It's that unpredictability that, like you said, that gets these teams that come down and they think they can go straight back up. Personally, I don't even think Burnley will come straight back up next year. So I don't know. I think West Ham would be more well equipped out of the 3 that are going down to be the one that make a charge to come back.
Yeah, massive summer for them. Of course, they were pipped by a former side managed by Nuno Espirito Santo, a team that's finished in 17th place for back-to-back season. And when you cast your mind back to the start of the season, they kicked things off with that Super Cup against Paris Saint-Germain. Remember, it went all the way to the penalty shootouts. And all the Spurs fans got quite excited. Oh, that was a really good performance. Here we go. And then Frank's gone. They've had about 16 managers in between trying to sort the mess out. Igor Tudor was just a mistake waiting to happen. They were moved in, and then under Roberto De Zerbi, they just about got over the line. But Grimmy, 3 Premier League wins at home. It's not ideal, is it?
Imagine being a season ticket holder. Imagine being one of those that sits in the stadium who's paid nearly $1,000 for that season ticket, and you've won 3 home games all season. It's just mental. Like, everyone goes on about how good that stadium is, but they cannot buy a win to save the breath of the season at home. It was ridiculous. Like 3 wins at home for any team. I mean, I know we've seen the relegated teams obviously have had poor home records as well, but I'm sure that some of their home performances would have been a damn sight better than what Spurs gave at home for large parts of the season. But to be fair, even when Thomas Frank was in, the writing was on the wall with the home form. Everyone was saying they're so good away, like they win away all the time early on in the season, but at home they can't get a win. And I always find it strange that I think it was like Christmas time or just into the new year, they were on 28 points when Frank left, and then they've literally picked up 13 points between that and the end of the season, which is just mental. And if you think one of them came in 6 games with Tudor at Anfield away of all places, it's like I didn't think Spurs could get worse from the Ange second season, but they somehow found a way. And I know everyone's saying De Zerbi's going to be able to fix this and he's going to have a transfer window, do what they need to do, and the owners are saying all the right things, but I don't know many players that are going to come to Spurs in the current form that they're in. If they get big signings through the door, they must have had to totally break the wage structure that they've got to build on that. Because at the minute, would you be surprised if Spurs finish the bottom half next season? I wouldn't be. Certainly not in the way they're playing at the minute. I know De Zerbi gave them a bit of an uplift, but it wasn't like he, revolutionised everything and went on a run and won every game. Like, he won a couple of games here or there and managed to get them over by the skin of the teeth. But yeah, it's not a pretty time to be a Spurs fan.
No, I was surprised by the 7 away wins. I don't remember any of them. I was thinking 7.
It was all at the start of the season with Frank.
They were all at the start.
They were at the start. It was all Thomas Frank, and everyone saying, "Oh, he gets it away from home." It's just once he gets a couple at home, that'll be it for Spurs, and it just never happened. And
weren't the top of the league at one point as well, or near enough at the top of the league? It might have like 3 or 4 games in because they'd won all those away games. Yeah, it was mad. Don't think they were top. I think Liverpool were early on, and then obviously Spurs went on the slab, but they were there about.
Yeah, they were sniffing around, and I'd say a bit of a run in Europe for a little bit as well. I mean, Dan, they're just 17 back-to-backs, a Europa League kind of in between, but wanting to sort of push on. Surely someone can do the squad that they've got there. When you look at the names and look at the quality. Okay, James Maddison's been injured for a long of the season, etc. But you've got internationals in there, some quality players. What do you think's the problem with Spurs? Okay, can they set this right, or are we just now in this kind of rinse and cycle?
Probably exactly how you just called it, the rinse and cycle effect with Spurs. I don't think they're ever going to get it right. I think they're trying to do it their way and not emulate how everybody tries to emulate somebody else. I don't mind them doing that because it's about having their own identity, but it's about getting that identity right. And before too long, they're going to end up suffering and seeing that trapdoor. Roberto De Zerbi was a good appointment for them. Like I say, it should have come a bit sooner for them, really. But again, it's just typical Spurs, isn't it? You don't know what side you're going to get. They always seem to show up in the big games. Oh, we've got Arsenal, yay. Oh, we've got United, we've got this, that, and the other. But then when you come up against the teams that they should be beating comfortably, they struggle. And that's where sort of their form lies. I just think it's not good enough. It's not good enough by a team that's, only recently been inducted into that sort of top 6 bracket as a top 6 club. And they're easily pushing themselves out of it. So well done to Sunderland for pushing themselves in there. And
They are indeed. And do you agree with this? And say Simon, and we also got welcome as well to Fools Letter is in as well. Too much reliability on Kane and Son. Haven't replaced Kane and Son. Is it the Kane and Son effect?
Well, Kane's irreplaceable, isn't he? You look at what he's done at Dortmund and Bayern Munich. I mean, he's one of the best players in the world in a minute, isn't he? If he's definitely up there. You're not going to replace someone like Harry Kane, but the fact that they have tried certain things, haven't they? Obviously, they tried Dom Solanke this year, and he's been, in and out with injuries and stuff like that. But it's just not the same. And Son leaving, I think, has been, a big miss for them. But you've also got to look at as well, and this is kind of like, if any Spurs fans are watching, the kind of the green shoots of, positivity that I am going to say that there's probably a couple of things. One is injuries, because they have had a torrid time with injuries this season. I've got to be honest. Like they've lost a lot of players. Madison barely played this season, did he? Kulishevsky, I don't think, has kicked the ball.
Kudos as well on their signings.
Kudos since January. I think they lost Romero. They lost Romero after he played against us because he hurt his knee. The goalkeeper, obviously, even though actually Kinski, since the Champions League debacle, when he's come in the league, he's actually done really, really well. To be fair, he made a hell of a save at the end of the season, wasn't it? He made a really good save. So there's that to put aside, and I think as well what I think will benefit them this season is no Europe, so that they're just focusing on one game a week. Getting players fit, one game a week, playing. Having that. Really, having to go away from home, and obviously they were in the Champions League, weren't they? Sure, was in the Europa League, but to get in that Champions League, and they did okay in that, but you saw how much effort it was putting through them, the amount of the amount of effort they were putting in, and like I say, picking up injuries here and there, and it did have a detrimental effect on the league. Whereas next season, not going to have that. So I don't think it'll be a season where the struggle as in the finish 17th again. If they do, then I think there's massive issues. But it's a one where I think it's a season where maybe they just need to, kind of consolidate a little bit and, just see what they can do. Even if they, aim to finish top half, I think it'll be a great season for Spurs. So I think there's something there for them. I don't think it'll be another season of what this is. Like I say, I think if there's another one, I think they'll go down, to be totally honest with you. But we'll see. It's an interesting time. And again, they've got the right manager in, probably at the wrong time. I think probably should have been, as Dan said before, probably should have been around about Christmas or whatever. But they've got a good manager in there, so we'll see what happens with them. But I think it'll be a little bit more positive than last year, or this year, sorry.
It's about time after two seasons of difficulty. But a team, say, that probably struggled from their Europa Conference, Europa League, wasn't it? Not Conference League, for Nottingham Forest after the European dreams, and disappointing after a fantastic season the year before. Again, another one, some crazy managerial situation at the start of the year. They never kind of seemed to recover from until Vitor Pereira came in and stayed with the ship a little bit towards the end of the season. But Dan, I'll come to you first. Nottingham Forest 16th, got out of trouble in the end. We would have been pleased with that. What do you make of Nottingham Forest season?
I like Forest. I mean, as a club, I quite like them. I think it's just Marinakis that really dumbs them down a bit for me. But I think as a club, they've done really, really well. Like I say, the season before, they faced the points deduction, didn't they? As well. they've still managed to battle away from all that. And they gave themselves a fighting chance as well. Okay, in the end, they've had to, like you said there, they've had the managerial merry-go-round before they've managed to get it right. But they have, like I said, that man's been an inspiration for Morgan Gibbs-White. Again, how he hasn't gone to the World Cup is another a question on that sort of things. But yeah, I think Forest. Okay, when you look at it, draws have really bailed them out, especially at home. I just like them as a club. I do like them as a club, and like I say, Viva la Chris Wood.
Viva, that's what they missed. You see, they missed that cheat code for a lot of the season. That was the problem. See, if they had him, not a problem. But I mean, it's a lot to compete in Europe, and I suppose we'll come on. I'm sure Ant will talk about that with sort of Sunderland and going ahead to next season. So there's almost a bit of a sacrifice prepared to take for the brilliant season of last season to have that European journey as well for some of it. But say, I mean, they've still got some good players in that squad, and they had a bit of change over the summer with the managerial thing. You think that really did give them a kick in the butt start of the season, and meant that it took them a little while to get going?
Yeah, I mean, you saw that obviously things weren't great under Nuno at the start of the season. Then Ange comes in, and it only gets worse. Deitch kind of came in and settled the ship a little bit, but just drew too many games and didn't really pick up enough points. Viva la Deitch. And then Pereira's come in, and then they've kind of found that Forest spirit that they had from last season when they had that great season. And honestly, I expect them to probably have another good season next year, because they might lose like Anderson, but I think they'll try and keep the majority of that squad and add another key midfielder in there and try and build from there, really. And I think without Europe being in there, I think Forest will be one of those teams again that teams are going to struggle against. The top teams will struggle against, home or away, and I think they'll be really difficult. I think Pereira's done a fantastic job since he's come in and really sort of woken the club up again after sort of the first 3 quarters of the season not being so great, apart from Europe, obviously.
Just to add to what Grimmy was saying there as well, is that Forest is sort of that club that, with the players that they've got individual qualities that other teams will sniff around for. That's what Forest need to sort of be a little bit more headstrong with. Like I say, Morgan Gibbs-White could get a move. What's it called? Is it Igor up top?
Igor Jesus.
Yeah. I think, you've got another player there who's, okay, maybe not hit the hearts that were to be expected of him, but has got the quality there maybe in another side. So yeah, they've got to really keep their eyes open in this transfer window as well, of making sure they can keep hold of those key players. If they don't, or they don't also, like say with Elliot Anderson being linked away, if they don't recuperate well with the money that they get from these signings, then it could spell curtains for them in a very tough Premier League season this year.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that because of the owner, I don't think the money's not going to get reinvested. I don't think it's like.
Didn't he step down? Hasn't Marinaki said he stepped away? I know. I don't know whether he just said this.
He said it probably just to kind of get away with some regulation.
He meant he's gone on holiday, Dan. Just step away.
Yeah.
He's doing a Tonda, but getting away with it, isn't he? That's what he's doing.
He's scrapping at basketball games in Europe somewhere at the minute. So yeah, that's kind of his main hobby, I think. But yeah, I think because of the people involved at the top, I think they'll invest that money, and I think they'll probably end up finding a couple more diamonds in the rough. Because I think they'll get a king's ransom for Anderson. I think they'll get a lot of money for him. If Gibbs-White goes, I think he's the one. If there was one person in the team I'd say keep a hold of, it's Gibbs-White, because you see their top goal scorer, 15 goals, and there was plenty more of them in Europe as well, in big moments from him. So yeah, I think he's the main one I'd want to keep hold of, and then he can sort of build around him really. And probably a couple, maybe winger option. I heard murmurs the other day that they might go back for Elanga from Newcastle and get him on the cheap, because obviously he's not had a great season at Newcastle, and I don't think a lot of people up there rate him really. So we'll see if there's anything to that.
They have got some young players, haven't they? Like I say, McAtee could come in and slot in pretty much if Anderson does go, but you'd need a strong season from him. Like I say, he came from City with high hopes and has sort of just been a bit of a benchmark. So he'd need to step up to the plate if he really wanted to make a name for himself. But again, like say, Forest have a good chance of, like Grimmy said, of making next season their own a little bit. But it depends. It's all on that, keeping that structure together.
I think that's it. Going back to that identity they had, because if you go back 12 months and how good they were defensively, how they were very difficult and they were very good, sort of transitioning quickly, and they had that, and obviously such a manager turnaround, in such a short, by the time that you had Nuno, then you had Ange, then you had Dice, then you've gone back into it's only sort of now with Vitor Pereira it seems stable a bit, because Matt Sells was goalkeeper of the season 12 months ago. They had that centre back of Milenkovic was the signing of last season, arguably, like for the fee that they got for him, and that backline was super good, and they've just lost that a bit. So I think now they've had their European journeys. You said if they can keep that kind of squad together, get that identity back, get the right kind of couple of players around it. If they say we all expect Elliot Anderson to go, but keeping hold of Morgan Gibbs-White will be absolutely crucial. So, and do you think they could rise back up again next year? Do you think Forest are one that European distractions and a bit of stability is needed?
I think they've got to keep hold of Gibbs-White. I can't see Anderson staying. Obviously, I think City will want him. City will probably get him, and probably then what about like Rodri leaving out the City? So you can imagine he can just step into Rodri's shoes, and he's a hell of a fight. He's such a good footballer, Anderson. I feel bad for saying it because he's a Newcastle lad, but he's a brilliant player. And I think like kind of it's like what Dan said before. They've done very well transfer-wise, haven't they? Bringing these players in. Obviously, Callum Hudson-Odoi as well, who hit the ground running with them as well. And Gibbs-White's been a phenomenal signing, been absolutely fantastic. I agree with what the lad said before regarding the England squad. How he's not in there with 15 goal contributions in the league, and many more there. And plus, the fact he links up so well with Anderson. I mean, when they're firing Forest, they're an excellent football side. You saw towards the end of the season where they're kind of like, look, oh, actually, this is a little bit close. We might go down here. All right, hang on then. They absolutely hammered Spurs, beat us 5-1, and honestly, they were brilliant. Like the 15 minutes where we couldn't get the ball off them, they were absolutely outstanding. So it's capable, and I think everyone kind of looked at the Pereira managerial appointment and probably laughed at it, thinking, well, where's that come from? But it's his marrow, isn't it? It's his mate. So he's done a great job. He's done a really good job. And if they can build on that next year, again, not one where I can see them being, sucked into a relegation battle, but it'll all depend on who stays and who goes and who they can bring in. Another one where I think there might be a transitional summer where you'll see different. But one thing they do have to improve on next year is that home form, only winning 4 games. We mentioned it before about how home form is very, very vital, but 4 games at the City Ground, and I think that's a fantastic stadium to go to. But a lot of teams got results there, so that's probably what they need to improve on next year.
There you go. Positivity, possibility for Nottingham Forest, but a team that had a very strange season, I suppose you could say, that ended up in success with the Conference League after last year's FA Cup win. Manager announcing he's leaving pretty much halfway through the season. They were sort of decimated with Eze going, with Gahey going, there was a point when Mateta had enough as well. It was pretty looking different. And now obviously Glasser has gone, Grimmy. They've got a European trophy under their belt, but a bit of turmoil. Where do you rank Crystal Palace season?
I mean, it's a strange one because halfway through the season, I was very worried about them with everything going on with Glasner, with sort of the player exodus that seemed to be happening. Obviously, they lost Eze at the start of the season, they lost Gueye in January, and then Mateta was literally probably one good-looking knee away from going to Milan at one point. So yeah, like at one point, I thought Palace might get sucked into that relegation battle, but once the January transfer window shut, it kind of seemed to just kind of shut all the noise out, and they just kind of became that Palace that were difficult to beat and would pick points up in unexpected places. And then obviously they've went on this run in the Conference League and they've went and won it. So now they're in the Europa League proper next season and have earned it again. So yeah, it's a strange one for Palace because it's kind of still all up in the air, despite the fact that they've had such a good end to the season. again, they wanted Iriola, I think was the main report, but of course he's on the verge of signing for Liverpool now. So who comes in next? It's kind of hard to tell. Will the likes of Mateta and those stay on now that there's a Europa League there? That's kind of maybe an extra incentive to stay on. But yeah, it's just a weird one. I don't know how to rate Palace this season because they've stayed in the Premier League, which is kind of always the remit for Palace until recently when they've been a bit more, when they've had the sort of top quality players like the Ezes and the Guays in there. But it still seems to be in total turmoil with no manager. Don't really know what the plan is in terms of transfers and incomings and outgoings. The first 11 could look totally different next season to what it does now. So, yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. I guess in the league they've done the bare minimum, and then Europe's kind of the cherry on top to go alongside the FA Cup from the season before. I think Palace fans will look back on this sort of 12-month period and say this is probably the best it's ever going to be, or we won't see anything like this for a very long time, and we'll enjoy it while it lasts, basically. But yeah, it's kind of a weird one because with all the theatrics in the middle of the season, I really don't know what to make of it, to be honest.
It's a difficult one to assess. Do you agree with this, Dan? Do you think Scott Parker to the Croydon lots is going? I know Graham's probably got a different view of the direction he wants Crystal Palace to go in. But...
Why not? Why not? You know what? Go and ruin another Premier League club. Do it.
Go and have another go. But and Oliver Glasner leaves with, sort of a great reputation. Done a sterling job over there. Leaves with 2 trophies. Well, considering they didn't have any 12 months ago as a club, Crystal Palace. I'm not sure. Has it been clear where he's going? Do we know where Glasner's going yet, or
no?
What the options are? But I mean,
Burnley.
There you go. He fancies a bit of championship. Another trophy, Dan. Another trophy to get you out the championship.
Playoff final.
Yeah. Is that the biggest miss yet, Ant? Obviously frustrated with losing players like Eze and Gay here and all the rest of it.
I think he's doing, considering where it was, what was it, about Christmas time, where he basically said they'd been abandoned by the owner, wasn't it? I think it was when we beat them, so it was whenever that was. But he basically said, they'd been abandoned. And I was expecting him to get sacked. Got to be honest, I thought that was it for him. And you know what? He's right. He's got a right to be disappointed. Obviously, they lost a lot of players. Gay going to sea was a big one, wasn't it? And the fact that they'd done really well and rejected like 80 million from Newcastle not so long ago, and then sold him for like a pittance, really, considering how good he is. Like you say, Mateta nearly went. Eze going to Arsenal. They're always going to have a poor season, but. Look, they've went to the Conference League. They've won the Conference League. He's obviously he's gone out a winner there, hasn't he? The one person who's won from this is Glasner. He's going to walk into any job he wants. He has done a good job. With them next year, it'll all depend on who they get. I mean, they were after Areola, weren't they? But he's going to Liverpool, isn't he? So who are they going to switch their attentions to? Obviously, I think Frank Lampard's been mentioned, but I don't see that happening. I've got to be honest. I think Lampard will want to give Coventry a go. So that's a big thing for Palace to pick the right person to come in. But the thing is, with them, they were never really dragged into a relegation battle where they were always just there. They were always just like a few points away, picking up the wins at the right time. So, but yeah, I think really, if you're a Palace fan, you're kind of thinking, yeah, it has been a bit of a weird season. But they've won a trophy at the end of it. They've got a European trophy to the name, so fair play to them. Like.
This is it. They finish on a celebration, and as you say, probably waiting with bated breath who the manager is and what might come for Palace.
I mean, and you don't know as well what the deal is with I nearly called him Moretta. I was thinking about the beer with Mateta.
Beer with Moretti.
That's what I was thinking of.
Moretti and Poretti, the Italian duo. being
at work all day, you think, that's what my mind's set on. But what's the deal with him? Is he going to be off now? That they got like the end of the season out of him. He was like we said before, he was just a decent knee away from gone, and that probably would have spelled a little bit of a bad thing for them. So does he want to leave now and go into a Champions League side? But they've got Europa League, so they'll be they can guarantee him that. But it's going to be another season of Thursday, Sunday, which they've obviously struggled with this season. And I don't think they've got the squad depth to cope with it year after year after year. So we'll see. But that's going to be an interesting one with them.
Will be very, very interesting. And a side here that went up with yourself, went up with yourself, Dan, and they've managed to finish themselves 14th. Daniel Farker has broken the sort of curse of everyone believing that he couldn't get it done in the Premier League. He's adapted. He's been versatile this year. Leeds have been very good at home. Got some 9 home wins, which has been the key. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been a sensation for them, and somehow they've also managed to keep him fit as well, which has made a massive difference. It's been a big step in. Grim, we come to you first on Leeds. Just overachieved beyond belief, surely. I mean, the Sunderland story's amazing, and it's kind of gone. This has gone under the radar a little bit. The Leeds finishing 14th is pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for all intents and purposes, I think a lot of Leeds fans and a lot of the football landscape were calling for Farker to get sacked before that City game, and I think that was the turning point when he changed the tactic at half time and they kind of went a bit more defensive and a bit more difficult to beat, and then they almost came back against City as well, and then that started that run of however many games it was that Calvert-Lewin scored in a row, and then they just kind of went from one strength to another, and they've been really difficult for teams to beat, whether it's home or away. It's not been easy for teams to get past Leeds at all. Obviously, we'll not talk about the Old Trafford result because that still stings a little bit, but because that's not happened since like the early 80s. So but yeah, like you have to give I give a lot of credit to Farker for this one because he came up with Norwich twice and they didn't back him, and then basically got the finger pointed at him for being the reason why they got relegated or didn't do well in the Premier League. And I just feel like I always felt like if he got a team, whether it was a decent-sized team or whoever, that gave him a bit of backing financially or brought in some decent players to deal with the Premier League, I thought he would do a good job. And he's done exactly that this season. Again, bit of a question mark over his future because he's kind of made some weird noises at the end of the season to say, I've finished this project at the end of 3 years, so I'm going to speak to the board and see what the next step is. If they don't really give me something to get excited about, I'm probably not going to stay. I'm kind of like, I don't know if that's what you want to say when it's the first time you stayed up as a Premier League manager, and you could probably build on this going into next season and maybe push for these to be sort of even further in the mid-table, if not top 10, with the right signings. Because I think the spine of that team's pretty good. I just think they need a few additions elsewhere, and I think they could be a real force next season.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of question marks over that interview from Farker. So there's lots of managerial situations in the Premier League already since the Premier League's finished. But Driti's not happy. She's booing. She wanted them to get relegated.
I was also on that bandwagon, Driti. I was with you on that one.
This is it. But what do you think made Leeds good this season? And were they much different from the Leeds last season in the Championship for you? Did they evolve in the right ways?
Pretty much, I think the Calvert-Lewin effect was there for everyone to see, wasn't it? Get a lot of goals and stuff. But yeah, they scored a lot of goals from set pieces, what they did last year, didn't they? I think they were pretty much the same. It was just he made that change, didn't he, against City, and they just looked a completely different side. But I think they have signed well. Obviously, getting Calvert-Lewin, and that was a risk with Calvert-Lewin because he has been. We all know he's a good striker, really, really good striker, but it's keeping him fit. And, I don't know how many games he's missed this year, but it's only a handful. He hasn't missed many. And then they backed it up by getting Stack in, who was an excellent set-piece taker. Really, really good footballer as well. But they were okay at the back as well. That's why I thought they'd struggle, but Rodan had a good season. They have been good. It's to be fair, but you look at the stats there. And it was the same with us. The home form's done it. The home form's kept them up. Becoming a hard team to beat at home. It's vital. It's vital for any of the three sides who are coming up now. You've got to be good at home. Because you look at their away form. That's relegation form. The away form. Only 2 wins away. Sorry, guys. But that's where they need to improve on next year. But the big question mark again, as you said, there's Daniel Farmer. Why is he saying? I can't understand why he said that for. He's done a really good job. He's kept them up, and then he's like going, well, have they basically said that there's not much money to spend because they spent an awful lot of money this season? Have they basically gone, well, we need to take it on the chin a little bit and maybe lose a player or two and not bring as many in? Then it'll be a season of where they'll probably be down near the bottom as well. So again, it's one we mentioned before about Palace. It's when you're looking at it as a summer, you're thinking who can they bring in, who can they bring in, who wants to go there and improve them. Like for me, them going to Somerville makes so much sense. From West Ham, good direct striking player who can get goals. It just makes a lot of sense to me. But we'll see what happens. Like I say, it's an interesting one with them. I think there'll be a few on the edge of the seats with who they're going to sign and who's going to go.
Could well be, and if that manager situation does go a certain way, and maybe that's it. Maybe he's looked at it going, "You're not going to back me. I can only see this going one way. I'm kind of at the, he's at the peak of, his availability, his, of where he's reached kind of in his career, and thinks, now if I stay a bit longer, maybe this turns me a bit. I mean, Dan, what do you think of Farke and Leeds? Do you think they're gonna work it out, or do you think he might go?
No, I think if anything, Farke needs to go with his head held high. I think Leeds fans have always held high expectations, of this massive club stuff, and which I've never got, to be honest, because like I say, with all football club has history, that does not make you a humongous club. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It's all about now, and at the end of the day, you only just got promoted, beat us by a point on the final day. Oh no, we're level on points. It was goal difference. Sorry, Mano Solomon last minute. So, and I'm not just saying that because of the Lancashire-Yorkshire divide and nobody likes Leeds. I mean, I am in a way, but no, I'll own it. But no, I think for Daniel Farke, he's an absolutely brilliant manager. But I just don't think that he's going to get the actual love that he deserves as a gaffer there as well from fans. I know there's still a very much split fan base. Like I say, the recruitment went well. You said it at the start there. He kept Calvert-Lewin fit. He's been banging form for them. Some of the signings they've made as well, like I say, I think they got the guy for, was it Mecha? They got on a free as well. Another attacking player that's done all right for them. They have got some really good players. They knew the way that they wanted to set up, have some really tall lads in there, your likes of Stack and things like that, to try and be really aggressive, even from a defensive side of things. But yeah, to nail my, however they're saying this thing to the mast, I think Farke should. I think Farke should basically go with his head held high and let Leeds maybe do what they want to do. And Farke, again, similar to Glasner, could go into another job.
And pop his CV into Burnley whilst he's at it.
I would take Daniel Farke.
It's almost like he was on the pod. It's almost like he was on the pod.
He's here.
He's here. It's our special interview for our season review to give us.
You got Daniel. You just got the ugly Farke version.
Don't say that.
No, come on! Don't make us praise you. To make you feel unbelievable. But in 13th place, new stadium and all. David Moyes at the helm. Excitement going into this season. Looked so good for part of it. Looked like, they were tussling kind of, with, were they going to finish above Liverpool? Was European football a possibility? But it just dropped off a bit. And I'll come to you first. Is it, and ultimately, this is a bit disappointing for Everton? Is it they haven't 6 wins at home, maybe not connected to the home stadium just yet and made that the fortress? Where were they missing?
I don't. You know what? It is. I think they've been a little bit of a culprit. I say a culprit, a little bit of a I'll say a culprit, because the league's been that from like 13th to where we finished in 7th. It's very, very tight. The points situation is very, very tight. And I think the problem is with Everton, they got to a point where they were closing in on Liverpool, and I think I remember being on with Rebecca on a Thursday, and she was like, if we win this week, we've got above them, and then they didn't seem to win a game since. They really did fall off going in for Europe and stuff like that. One of the teams, I think it was them and Fulham, who really, didn't have a good end of the season. They were the ones who struggled. And I think with that, it's maybe too many draws, 10 draws in the season's probably a little bit on the high side. But you look at it, it is very much mid-table form, isn't it? Winning 7 away games is very good. But losing 8 at home, not so good. Maybe that's what it is. I think maybe you're right about the whole tickets. Mind you, I think that's a fantastic stadium. I really do. And I think they've done a very good job of making it like Goodison with all the stuff that they do beforehand for in and out of the game and stuff like that. Maybe it's a little bit because Goodison was that enclosed and it was that tight that the pitch dimensions don't suit them as much. But I think they've done okay. I think they've had a decent enough season. Beto getting 9 goals is an absolute miracle. So fair play. But the other striker who came in as well, he got goals, didn't he? He struggled to begin with, and maybe as well, obviously missing Ndai, missing a few players through injury and stuff in the Cup of Nations. That maybe set them back a little bit as well. But I think that's an okay season for them because with the points total if that had been any other season, they may have finished 9th or 8th, and I think you're looking at thinking that's a great season for them. So I think it's another one where they'll be all right next year. I think they've got, as much as I hate to say it, but David Moyes does well there. He does well everywhere he's been, apart from Sunderland and Manchester United. You know what I mean? But every other team loves him, apart from us. We can't stand him. But I think he's okay. Obviously, Pickford's had another cracking season for them behind the defence and stuff, been really, really good. I think they're a good side. Stinks sometimes. Maybe they're a little bit predictable. I think that's maybe what that's why they never get that next step. But I'm definitely thinking that next season, year after, with a couple of really quality additions, they'll get up there. And I think they've made one of the signs of the season in Dewsbury Hall. I think he's been outstanding for them.
Yeah, he's been good. I think they were winless in their last 5. I think, as you said, it just kind of came off a cliff at the wrong.
Yeah, just fell away at the wrong time. Yeah,
it just didn't quite make it. I mean, Grimmy, I think Rebecca was a bit when she was on last week disappointed and said there was sort of the fans I think have been really sort of quite probably more disappointed than we're seeing it. It's kind of neutrals going, it's okay, but you think that's a little bit harsh because as you answered, the points difference between where they finished and where they are, it's not a million miles away from you.
No, it's not. But I do think it was a big missed opportunity for Everton. I think you look at where they were last season before Moyes came in, they were very much looking at relegation down the barrel, really, and Moyes came in and sort of immediately steadied the ship and got them into 13th and sort of just it was okay. And then this season, obviously, the start they had with Grealish coming in, Dewsbury Hall having the season he had, I felt like it was a good opportunity for them to, even if it was Conference League, it was still a good opportunity to get into Europe in some way, shape, or form. And then just to fall off the cliff with 5 games to go and not get anything from any of those games, I think is going to be disappointing for Everton fans. I think it's one of those what could have been, because if they had put a decent run together or even had maybe beaten Liverpool in that Merseyside derby at home, because it was a tight game, if it had gone the other way, I think Everton could have been looking at a European season. And I think under a new stadium of Moyes' first full season back, that would have been a fantastic result for everyone involved, really. And I think they were so close to that. It's just that's why there's disappointment there, I think, for the likes of Rebecca and the Everton fans, because it was a big opportunity for them to do that. And, who knows what happens with Grealish in the summer? Does Grealish go back? I don't know. I think the finances might be a bit expensive for Everton's taste at this point with his wages and things like that. But, of course, there's opportunities in the market with the relegated teams like with Bowen and sort of key players like that. For me, they have to probably sign a proper striker. They have to get a striker in who's going to give them 15 goals in the season and going to be consistent. Because like Ant says, Beto getting 9. I didn't even think he'd got 9 goals in the season. So to see that surprised me. And Barry didn't really do anything when I watched him. He didn't exactly light it up. I know he had a really poor start to the season, and fair play to the Everton fans for sticking with him. And when he scored that first goal, I do remember the celebrations being quite euphoric for him. Which is fair play to the fans for sticking by the guy, which is what they should do, really. But yeah, I think it's a big missed opportunity, and I think that they'll be kicking themselves because they could have been in Europe, had a bit more positive momentum, getting back to being that Everton of the top half of the table. But the table doesn't lie. You end up where you end up in 5 losses or no points in the last 5 games of the season. That's going to inevitably drop you down the table and make you miss out on those European places.
This is true. Dan, anything to add on Everton before we move on?
Yeah, just basically David Moyes. I think it's a good bit of business by Everton to bring him back at the time that they did. Someone to come in and steady the ship after some of the managers they've had. They tried to go down that money route, didn't they? Like I said, bringing in Koeman, bringing in Ancelotti, splashed a lot of cash on Dross. Really, that didn't even perform. I'm talking, your David Klassen and stuff like that. That it just didn't really sit. They weren't Everton signings. They tried to change something. I think now David Moyes can actually do and hold them accountable. Grealish has been a godsend for them. Okay, yeah, he got his injury, etc. But if they can make him a permanent signing, I think he would massively help Everton going forward for next year. Might help them even finish 13th again.
Consistent. They are consistent. Just not quite probably where they wanted to be. Newcastle United. So I think we'll leave a certain gentleman to last on this one. Might have a comment or two.
The smile on his face.
Comment or two to see them this early.
Yes,
the grin of a Newcastle 12. Go on then, Grimmy, to give us a different view than the one Ant might give us. What went well for Newcastle this year? What can they take as a positive?
I mean, not a lot really. In all honesty, the signings. I don't really think any of the signings really worked out. Obviously, they brought in Vissa, who missed the first few months of the season. Voltemata didn't really do much apart from score for Sunderland in the away game of the derby, which I'm sure Ant will touch on a little bit more.
Goal of the season.
And they had players. They had the midfield out injured for a good chunk of the season at different points, and Alanga didn't look great for them despite the money that they spent on him. And they had a bit of a Champions League run. They got to the round of 16 or quarterfinals against Barca. So again, that's the first they've ever been in the Champions League, so that's a positive for them, I guess. But league-wise, it just didn't really happen for them, and they just dropped too many points. And there was too many games I watched for Newcastle this season where the energy that they would usually have just wasn't there. Whether that's a symptom of the Champions League being there as well, I don't know. But I also think the team itself needs a bit of a refresh. I think there's a lot of players there that have been there for a while and maybe just needs a bit more energy in there to get them going again. And I just think the summer transfer window in general was a pretty big flop, to be honest. I mean, that's kind of my summary of Newcastle as a whole this season. So it'd be interesting to see what they do going into this summer, because I think a lot of the bigger players like the Tonali, the Brunos, people like that, I think there'll be teams sniffing around them, and they'll be getting some money for them, I would imagine.
It started off, you said the transfer window was but it all started off with the Isak, start of the season where down tools wasn't, and that just dragged on and on and on. And then they ended up, remember, they were splashing crazy money around for strikers the back end of the window. It was a real kind of panic situation. You said, Vissa he was injured for 2 months, but didn't turn up for the rest of it either. He was nowhere near kind of what he was last season. Dan, as I said, there's not a lot. That midfield probably is maybe, I think maybe partly been slightly found out a tad. Plus, I think also needs a bit of a refresh. I mean, apart from Bruno probably being the smiliest player we've had on the graphic so far yet, what was that midfield all about?
Yeah, again, I think I could see Newcastle going through quite a new midfield structure. I think Tonali wants out, doesn't he? There's questions on whether Eddie Howe should still be managing as well. I know this is all outside talk, but Bruno is for me one of those. He seems like a loyal sort of guy. I think he's very much gets Newcastle and what they're about. But yeah, like Simon says, I think maybe it is time that they need that managerial change. How many winning positions they have dropped out from? If they didn't, they would have been sat top of the table coming into like the last month of the Premier League, something like that. It's madness, and you've got to put that on the manager. So we'll see what happens. I suppose this is what happens when you wear a kit that looks like Beetlejuice's suit.
Wait to see next season.
Oh, it's Ross.
Oh, it's horrendous.
Luther Van Dross.
It does literally look like Beetlejuice's top, is what Dan said. Like, it looks absolutely awful. I think it's a concept, but apparently it's like the real one. So
yeah,
it is.
It's been spotted. Have you not seen it?
I've not seen it yet. No, I haven't actually.
Yeah. Funnily enough.
Oh, good Lord.
Oof.
Yeah, that's bad. Oh, no.
It looks like that, that thing when you're watching like ITV or something and they do a break, that little black and white thing.
It comes out of the corner just to let know there's an advert.
Yeah. What's with the blue Adidas stripes? I don't get that either. Like, what's that about?
Is that Newcastle are on? It's time to switch over.
But to be fair, we normally call them the barcodes up here. That's what we normally call them. It actually looks like a fucking barcode.
It does.
It is the barcode. So go on then.
We're hoping that
Newcastle
Liverpool will scan
12th.
it. We're hoping Liverpool will scan it to get the money back.
Get the money back, yeah. Newcastle 12th, fan. Go on then, discuss.
Well, I think over the Eddie Howe stuff, I think had they were going to sack him, I think they would have done so by now. I think it would have gone the end of the season. So apparently they had like a meeting in like the Vermont Hotel, which Kieran Trippier made famous a couple of years ago, allegedly. And apparently he is going to be staying. So I kind of see that. I do think they've been found out. I think his tactics been found out, where the press and all that stuff. And what you got. The thing is, if you stay 0-0 against Newcastle after 20 minutes, they don't know what to do. They run out of ideas, and that's what they've been doing. That's why they've lost a lot of games from when they've been in front as well, because they haven't got this plan B, and they have run out of energy a lot in second halves. So I think next year, I mean, they'll get a couple of players in, because I mean they've got like the Anthony Gordon money, which I think is an excellent bit of business that they've got. They've doubled their money on him. A player who I don't think's that good, I've got to be honest. Every time he's played against, I've seen him twice against us, he's been absolutely appalling. And he even scored against us. It was the only touch of the ball he had at the start. But I think them getting 79, 69 million plus add-ons for him, I think is a tremendous deal. I think they've literally had Barcelona's pants down there, to be totally honest with you. But fair enough. But what they've got to do, they need to get another striker in. Is Walter Mara started well, to be fair, but he's not a very good footballer. He can finish, he can get get balls in the box and everything like that. And Wiss has been the biggest disappointment of the summer. I've got to be honest, of the season. I thought when they signed him, and I know they were after they were trying to sign everybody, didn't they? Because they were after Sesko at one point, they were after Ekatiki, lost to Isak and all that stuff. But I thought them getting Wiss, I was thinking, yeah, he's a good player, he's a good striker, but it doesn't quite fit what Newcastle try and do, because they don't use the wide men enough. And funny enough, looking at I was surprised Bruno Guimaraes was the top scorer, because I thought it was Harvey Barnes, because every time they seem to score, it seemed to be Harvey Barnes. But I think he's had a good season. They get the back, they become very leaky. I think obviously Nick Pope's had a poor season for them. That Aaron Ramsdale as well, I don't think did that well either. Dan said before, conceded a lot of goals late as well. The away form was turgid. Home form not even that good, only won 10, but they lost 7. That's not like a Newcastle side. Conceded a lot of goals, as I said before, and it's always going to happen where sometimes your shelf life just maybe ran out, and maybe that's what it is with Eddie Howe at Newcastle. But he's definitely got to change. And I don't think he's capable of doing that. I really don't. So I think I can see it being, I mentioned it before with Spurs, the fact they haven't got Europe, I think, is big, because we saw what happened last season when they didn't have Europe. They got Champions League and they won the League Cup. So they are capable of, because they are a good side. But they are without, they are now without Gordon. I think Tonali will leave. I'll be amazed if Tonali stays. Bruno, I think will stay. But for me as well, they need to start thinking about life without Joe Linton as well, because all Joe Linton does is go around kick players. How he's not been sent off more times is beyond me. And the wide men are Langer's field. I don't think Jacob Murphy's that good anymore. They've lost Kieran Trippier, I think Fabian Schär. They're going to lose players at the back. So it's a big summer for them. They've got the recruitment has got to be better than it was this season. I hope that it's exactly the same and the same thing happens. I've got to be totally honest with you. I don't wish them any well at all. But their fans will be they'll be wanting a very quick start from Newcastle. And then if it's just exactly the same in the 12th, 13th after September or something, then I think Eddie Howe's gonna. I'll be surprised if I'm surprised they haven't already got him. I'll be amazed if they don't start the season well. He'd be the first one on the chopping block, to be fair.
Pressure's only going to ramp up, isn't it? I mean, they threw away 27 points from winning positions this season. That's just a crazy amount, and that's not what they have been doing. So it does seem like Newcastle are at a point of needing to change. As we continue through the league, we have a team that is hot off the press today. Come to you. Should we come to you, Dan, on this one? Marco Silva is another manager who's off skis. Looks like Benfica, I think it was who's been linked to. So he's been at Fulham for 5 years, is it? 4 or 5 years, and Fulham have kind of always been in this position where they're almost sort of getting into Europe, not quite, but very stable in terms of what they performed. Harry Wilson very good. So Marco Silva, initial thoughts leaving Fulham. Is this a big risky turning point for Fulham?
It is. It's going to be a massive change for them. Like I said, there's a few things that could have gone really wrong for Fulham this year. Like I say, Harry Wilson was close to joining Leeds, let's not forget as well, and he's turned out to be their top goal scorer. Could have been a completely different season for Fulham. But Marco Silva, I think the job that he's done there as well has been nothing short of remarkable. I know we said the same with Glasner as well. Okay, Silva hasn't brought silverware. However, he's brought a tinge of class with him. And if he does get the Benfica job, then fair play to him. I'm not sure who would be the appointment for Fulham though. I'm not sure who would sort of take the job. I think it's a steady job, whoever goes in there, because they are a stable Premier League club. But Fulham. Probably would you you know what, I'll throw it back to you, Sam. Do you think 11th is a good enough position for Fulham this year?
I think again it comes. I think it's almost expected, but when you always get to the kind of predictions and that, you're always thinking, you always feel with Fulham, is this the 1 year that they're gonna sort of drop off? You see more likely that it's going to drop off than step up. You see what I mean? Because again, this was an opportunity for so many sides this season to make that step into Europe, to do it, that was so close. And you saw the likes of Sunderland take that chance. You saw the likes of Brighton kind of come back and do that. Brentford were very close knocking on the door. Fulham have got to look at that and go, 11th's good, it's stability, and sometimes there's the case of wishing too much and then getting caught and then struggling yourself down the other end. But they'd have been wanting to finish above someone like a Brentford. At the start of the season, they've been actually sort of nailed on. So it's probably a little bit bittersweet. But now there's probably a bit of concern because, everyone sort of wishes for that next step when they get to here. And it's a very easy step to make the wrong step and step backwards. And losing Marco Silva, I see this as a real turning point for Fulham in terms of where they're going to go as a club in this next couple of years. One bad appointment and all of a sudden you could see them sort of starting to struggle and sort of tumble down. So it's interesting who. So I've seen this as well, that McKenna's been linked with the Fulham job as well.
It's not a bad gig to take. But
like stable club.
They need a striker though. They need a striker. Raul Jimenez is, he's getting past his best now. He's in his 30s. I think, like I say, if he wants to continue his playing career at a top level, maybe this could be his final, World Cup tournament, international tournament. Especially after his injury, a couple of years back as well. yeah, they do need someone to fight, to fire them on all cylinders. They've got that young lad, haven't they, Josh King. I think he needs to come into his own a bit next season, maybe, and step up. But there is a few players that, if Fulham do want to kick on and push on, are going to have to. They are going to have to add some speckles of brilliance in there, because they can't keep relying on the likes of, we're saying there, Harry Wilson's 10 goals was linked with, and they was happy for him to move on to Leeds until last minute. We'll probably talk about it later with Villa, and Emi Buendia was always linked with a move away, and he somehow bails Villa out the shit. It's, you get these players that seem to do and turn up when they need to. And like I say, it's Harry Wilson who, for Marco Silva, has done the business. I like Fulham. I've not really got much to say about them. There's a lot of clubs in London that I'm not really overly fond of, but Fulham's one of those that I don't mind.
Once upon a time, they had a statue of Michael Jackson outside their stadium, Dan. So there's your link, you see.
We robbed him and put it in dugout.
You've nicked the statue. And Grimmy, quickly for you before we move on, anything to add on Fulham? Do you agree with that is kind of expected of where you think of Fulham now?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with what you said before about the managerial one. It's a big appointment, this one, because if they get it wrong, and obviously Harry Wilson's leaving as well, so he's available on a free, get this wrong, and I can see them being one of the teams who will struggle next year. I've got to be honest. I think he's done a remarkable job there.
Yeah, he really has. And then off to Benfica to fight Ruben Amorim, Grimmy. Silva versus Amorim. Back together again. Right, we're getting towards the top half of the table, but I left Liam Rossini in because it was very end of the season that they kind of had their caretaker manager. But from Club World Champions to 10th in the Premier League, Grimmy, despite João Pedro probably being one of the better sides of the season as well, with a kind of good season. What are Chelsea now? What's happened here? They were in the title race before Christmas, theory.
Title race, quotation marks. They're a mess, aren't they, really? I don't think there's anything else I can say to describe this season. I think you had a decent start under Maresca, top 4, title race, quotation marks. And then, of course, Maresca kind of made those comments and then got himself sacked. And then since then, it's all been very rapidly downhill. Now, it probably speaks a little bit to the job that Maresca was doing by keeping that all together and sort of keeping the band together and, keeping everyone fairly happy and getting Pedro to have a good season up until that point, and that continued on throughout the year. But obviously, since Maresca left, it's just been one big disaster, and bringing Rosignol in, who didn't gel with the players. Players starting to speak out against the manager isn't a good look in any way, shape, or form. Never mind the club captain doing it. It's just been a bit of a disaster. I mean, Cole Palmer obviously missed chunks of the season with injuries, which I think kind of was inevitable, really, when you think he's played 3 summers in a row. But he's not had a good season by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, the signings they've made haven't, apart from maybe Pedro, I would argue, haven't really gelled that well. Garnacho, of course. I'll not speak any more than I have to on that little.
Thanks for the money. Thanks for the
40 million. We'll cash that heavily. I just think it's been a disaster. The second half of the season has put them where they deserve to be in the table, which is 10th. And we spoke on Alonso's appointment last week, and I think he'll start to right the ship a little bit with Chelsea next season. We'll see what they do in the summer. That's kind of my take on Chelsea season. Is Rosignol was an awful choice.
Yeah, I agree. I think Xabi Alonso's a completely different prospect for them, but and they just dropped off completely. Obviously, you saw through them on the kind of final day, which meant they had a very symmetrical home and away record. But apart from that, it wasn't a great Premier League season.
One of 2 teams we did a double over. Them and obviously Newcastle mentioned before. So, it was a strange one because there was a time where under Maresca they were doing really well, weren't they? They were up there again, there or thereabouts, but then that fell away, and then him saying he wasn't a was a manager, not a head coach or whatever it was. And then getting, I mean, the Rossini thing was an absolute disaster, wasn't it? And I like the appointment of Alonso. I've got to be honest. I think it's quite an astute appointment for Chelsea. I mean, they're obviously paying him a fortune, but that side should never be finishing 10th. The team that they've got some remarkably good footballers. Mentioned Cole Palmer, Esteval, João Pedro getting 15 goals and not being in, not being even in the Conference League. And I think that's good for Alonso that they haven't got Europe to worry about. He can just focus on building a good side, getting the best out of the players, and not having Europe to worry about. And I think they'll be a side. I would say if they could bring 2 or 3 quality additions in, I would have them in my top 6, possibly top 4 next year. Because I do think he is a very, very good appointment. I think where they're falling very short this year was they just didn't seem to like any of the managers or like themselves, and gave up in a lot of games, didn't they? Where they were like 1 or 2-0 down or whatever, and just the heads just dropped. And that maybe that's what Alonso needs to really look at that and see what happens next year. But the side's too good to be 10th. So I really do think they'll improve next year. I think they'll be one of the teams to look out for.
Simon saying Rossini was a cheap option because he really worked for Blue Company. I mean, Dan. I mean, it's. I agree with Ant. I think they're not having Europe next season could make Chelsea a real kind of pain in the neck. We've seen it from United's perspective this season with that ability to have a full week's training to properly embed the ideas of kind of what you're doing. And we know Chelsea are likely to spend at the summer. So, do you think this is... They had a decent FA Cup final showing, but they did massive drop off that second half of the season.
Yeah, again, I think they need to gel as a team. That for me, it doesn't seem to work as a team. The cohesion's just not there for me. It just seems like you've got these players that are out for themselves more than anything. And they need to get that right first, get them playing together properly. If they don't do that, then it's just going to be another season again where it could just falter like it has towards this back end of the campaign. Some of the signings, I think sometimes Chelsea are quite a little bit, they like to rush the signings sometimes. We'll just bring Delap in, who again has been abysmal. For me, I've not really rated him as a Chelsea forward. I didn't think he was a Chelsea forward. But yeah, not really much to say on Chelsea. It's a terrible season by all accounts for them. 10th. I mean, they've just got to be looking forward. That's what they need to do. Going forward, they need to be looking forward. Yeah, like you said, the appointment of Rossini has held them back this campaign.
Yeah, they've had a disappointing season, but we'll go to a team that didn't have a disappointing season. Although disappointed with the final day and disappointed with how it kind of fell apart. I mean, when we were looking at Brentford at the start of the season, I think it's all fair to say we were all worried about them. They'd lost a lot of good players again. Keith Andrews' experience as a coach all called into question. And I think it's fair to say he's been fantastic. Igor Thiago with 22 goals. They found another player that can sort of bang them in up front for them. They've been fantastic. And they had a moment against Liverpool in that last game to get themselves into Europe. Gumi coming first. What an exceptional season from Brentford, but just shy of what they thought they were going to get.
Just shy of what the whole season had kind of built up to, really. Like you said before there, I think I know for a fact I had them near the relegation zone at the start of my season predictions, and we know from other teams that my predictions weren't necessarily the greatest, so we'll leave that one there. But you have to give massive credit to Keith Andrews for stepping in, taking the manager, getting that role and basically smashing it out of the park in terms of the expectations of what Brentford had this season. Thiago, we didn't see in his first full season at Brentford, really, because he was injured all the time. So to get 22 goals in a pretty much full season for Thiago is remarkable. I think the fact that you brought in someone like a Jordan Henderson was a great move as well, bringing a bit of experience in the midfield. And yeah, they've just made themselves really difficult to beat, and they play to their strengths really well, which is, set pieces, long throw-ins, and yeah, played a bit of a tougher version of football that we might not really have seen recently in the Premier League, but they've made it work to their advantage, and fair play to them.
Yeah, superb performance. And Keith Andrews, he obviously, Kyoto's been a great signing as well, because he's got the longest throw in the bloody world as well as being a really decent right back. But surprise of this, I know we've got there's a lot of managers of the season you put on there, but a surprise manager of the season, Keith Andrews, if you were to have that category.
I think he's definitely up there. I really do. I think he's definitely up there. I think a lot of people, I think I might have been included, thinking he'd be the first one to go. I think he's done a really, really good job. But what he's done is he's adapted what he was as a set piece coach and brought it into what he's doing as head coach, because they score a lot of goals from set pieces, and they're a really, really good side. And you know what, they deserve European football as much as ourselves and Brighton got on the last day. It would have been lovely for Brentford to get in there as well. Had we found some other way of, like ninth got in as well, they would have thoroughly deserved it. But it was just, you could say maybe just a step too far for them this season. But their home form was excellent as well, and Igor Thiago, what a striker, and everyone forgets he was there a couple of years ago and had a knee injury, missed the entire season. They lose Mbeumo, they lose Rissa, and then they've got this guy come back from injury. I don't think they were expecting that from him. 22 goals. I mean, remarkable season. But they've got some really good players as well. I love Kevin Schade. Kevin Schade's a great footballer as well. And Quintier as well, the other lad, the other winger, he's a fantastic footballer. They've just got great players all over the pitch. They don't concede many. They score a lot of goals as well. Hard to beat. Just, they're a good side. And, they can say a little bit unlucky, but they'll be there. Hopefully, they'll be there again next season, trying to do that next season. But he's been excellent, and again, a manager who's put his name in the shop door, I think, for a lot of teams if and when he does leave Brentford.
He's had a great season, and 22 goals for striker, Dan. That's the only Erling Haaland kind of sort of above him as well. Some suitors, do you think, for Igor Thiago? Do you think or stay loyal to Brentford? Because this is the problem with recent seasons. We've seen teams like Brentford, they get cherry picked. Obviously Mbeumo left for Manchester United, Johan Vissa left for Newcastle. Did you worry for Brentford to keep hold of him? Maybe a Kevin Schade?
Potentially. I think what they need to do is look at this season, maybe, when the manager's probably sat down with them, they've had that end of season team meeting, and he's probably said, look at where we finished, look at what we've achieved, look at how many people wrote us off before a ball was kicked, how many of your friends had moved on to opposite clubs, and you were all spoken about like you weren't good enough to do this job. If it wasn't for circumstances out of their control, they could have potentially, got into Europe. So again, having that sort of inspiration behind you, and I'll give Keith Andrews his dues as even as a former Blackburn midfielder. I wrote him off. I wrote him off before he even took the job. So fair play to him for what he's achieved. He's took to it like a duck to water, and I want teams like Brentford to do well. This is what the Premier League's all about. Giving those teams a chance. Brentford came up a few years ago and they were looked at like a Luton or someone like that was just going to come up, make up a number, go back down again. But they've actually sort of followed a similar model to what you've had with like your Brightons and stuff like that, where they've recruited very, very well, not really had to break the budget to sign these sort of players either. So I've got to commend the job that they've done. Yeah, fantastic work by Brentford and Keith Andrews. Amazing
season for Brentford, so they just about missed out on Europe. But a team that didn't, which means that we get the smiley face of Danny Welbeck, which is a lovely thing for everybody to see at any time of any season. Brighton Hove Albion finishing 8th under Fabian Hürzeler. Dan, I'll come straight back to you. They dropped out of the positions in terms of the Europa League, but they made it. They made it into Europe. How many goals is Danny Welbeck going to score in the Conference League next season?
Oh, top goal scorer. Top goal scorer, without a doubt. Like, again, another player that should have gone to the World Cup based on the way he's played, or should have at least been given a sniff. I was expecting that comment. I thought that's been pretty quiet. Is she waiting for Brighton?
Waiting for the graphic.
Again, a remarkable job by them. Brighton just always seem to find a way. They always seem to get themselves in the right positions. Every year, people write off Danny Welbeck, don't they? That's it. It's his final year. Surely he's not got the legs for another season. You know, we say the same with the likes of players like Jordan Henderson. You know, I go back to Brentford, and you know that sort of signing could have been a revelation in the dressing room. But you know, players like that, it's just utter quality, utter brilliance, and for longevity. I mean, what a player Danny Welbeck's been.
He's been superb. Shah was waiting patiently. If I knew, could have put Mr. Matoma in there too as well. I know. Shah's got it because he's injured. Because we have
he's
our
on the World Cup, isn't he?
I know. We have our preview being prepared, and Shah got Japan in our lucky dip of who's talking about the preview until we realise Matoma's not there. So she may not now talk about Japan. Might talk about something else. But now Matoma's not there. But yeah. So, Grimmy, I come to you on Brighton. Kind of a bit more like it from Brighton after a sort of disappointing season last year, and again another side that solid, back into Europe, more progression. Questions from Fabian Hertz are asked a little bit.
Yeah, I think the start of the season they had, it wasn't necessarily the best start. They were kind of in the sort of the lower half of the table, really, but nothing that was sort of making you think, oh, Brighton are in trouble here, nothing like that. But it wasn't, you know, as we found out by the end of the season, a million miles away from where they ended up finishing. But yeah, it's another step in the right direction for Brighton. Obviously, they have this model where they sign, obviously, young talent and kind of players you've never heard of, and people go, where have they found these players from? And they end up being absolute diamonds. But then they've got that nice mix of experience, as we see with the majestic man that is Danny Welbeck on the screen. On there, but also they've had James Milner in there as well, and Lewis Dunk's obviously quite an experienced pro now as well. So they've got that nice mix of youngsters and experience in there.
What a career, by the way!
100%.
650 plus appearances for James Milner.
Yeah,
sanity.
Unbelievable. Probably one of my least liked footballers, considering of all the teams he played for. But the respect is paramount, really, because of the amount of appearances, what he did in his career. And he started when he was 16 as well. Let's not forget, he started as a kid, basically, and he's still going to this day.
He got the Wayne Rooney's record for the youngest goal scorer he scored against us. I can remember that game. The fact he's still playing now, it's like just retired, hasn't he?
Yeah, when you think Rooney's
and he's not a passenger.
5 or 6 seasons, no, he's not.
Yeah, he's not a holding player. He's a player that blooming works his socks off every week and sort of runs himself into the ground as well. It's incredible. He's the Rafael Nadal of football, I think, just to the ends of the earth.
I hope he's not going to be riddled with injuries like what Nadal's got now. Bless him. I just watched his documentary on Netflix. He's got everything wrong with him. Bless him.
He gained about 20 years, didn't he? But bless him. But yeah, I mean, a good season for Brighton. And anything to add on them? I mean,
not really. Not really. A, because I know who's next, and B, it's just like Brighton were just. They were there, weren't they? They haven't been spectacular. They haven't been, bad or anything like that. They've just been consistent. And that's what consistency gets. That's what consistency got you this season, because there were so many sides that we've gone through, your Chelseas, your Newcastles, who've had bad seasons. And Brighton and Brentford, who we've just mentioned, have just been there or thereabouts all the way through and have made that jump. And obviously include us in that. They've just managed to find form at the right time, and that's what Brighton have done. And I'm going back to the man on the screen there, in Danny Welbeck. I mean, he is evergreen. How Ivan Toney's got the World Cup in front of him is absolutely madness, absolute madness. Because for me, if you want a striker to get you a goal when you haven't played well or the chips are down or something, I wouldn't take anyone over Danny Welbeck. I think he's just guarantees you a goal, and he's been there, he's done it, and he's got a t-shirt. I think it's a big miss.
I look back at some of them misses in an England, from an England perspective as well. Going back over the years, like Gaza where he misses with a toe. It's players like Danny Welbeck who are in them positions usually just to stab it home, and big miss.
Imagine, I'm just imagining Danny Welbeck on the edge of that Darren Anderson cross just now. 96 could have been different if Danny Welbeck.
If only he was 20 years younger.
If only he was 20 years younger. what he could have been. But we now go on to 7th place.
Oh,
it's not a typo, Ant. It's not. This happened. This was the season of belief, the season of dreams, and dreams ended with ecstasy because Sunderland finished 7th. I mean, European football, miles away from any sort of trouble. Regis Lebris, what a job. 9 wins at home. I mean, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. But got off to a really, really good start. Was the important thing was starting well. And obviously, we'd won our first 4 or 5 home games. But we were unbeaten at home until February when Liverpool beat us. And just keeping that consistency at home, getting some good draws against like the City, Arsenal and stuff like that. And then, just seeing some of these players develop this year, like Noah Siddiqui's, Chelsea Telby, Enzo Lefebvre, who's been absolutely outstanding. The second half of the season, I don't think there's been a better player in the league than him. I think he's been absolutely outstanding for us. And what Regis has done, considering, we were written off. We were written off at the start of the year, and I think it was, as I said before, it was a very, very lazy choice, I think, by all the critics, because I can remember the day we signed Granit Xhaka was a day I think, well, we actually might do something here. Did I expect European football? No. But, we always just kept ourselves, even though we had a blip around February, March time where we didn't, I think we'd won like once in 10. But we kept ourselves in striking distance, got the win over Newcastle away from home, and then just didn't really look back. Got a couple of good wins at the end of the season against Everton and Chelsea. Like I say, just went to some sides and what apart from Forest at home, where they were good but we were bad, we've never been like outclassed this season. We've always give sides a really, really good game. And sometimes we have been on the the wrong end of the results, but you just look at some games going down to Leeds, and that was when we were in our bad run of form, but beating them, not many teams beat them at Ellen Road. You're doing a good job of, even though it was a 0-0 draw, we're doing a good job against United when United were flying, getting Champions League and stuff, but we dominated that game, and we've just got better and better as the season's gone on. And we've had injuries, we've had everything like that, but we've had consistency at the back with the goalkeeper Robin Roofs and Nordi Mukiele, Dan Ballard, and we've had Xhaka in midfield has been unbelievable. Him and Siddiqui, the fear as well in midfield. We've had some good lads out on good, exciting young wingers, and then the main man there in the picture, Brian Broby, who for me, he must be the most difficult player to play against because he's so strong. He's a typical old-fashioned striker, and defenses they really don't like playing against him. And I think, to be honest, he's probably missed out on a couple of penalties or fouls on the edge of the box because of his strength. I really do think that, and he's been a hell of a signing. Every signing, bar a couple, you can say Arthur Masawaka, who hasn't worked out, Simon Adingra didn't work out, but every other signing's worked. And that's down to our recruitment side, and it's down to Regis Lebris coaching him. And we mentioned Keith Andrews, manager of the year. He's got to be in that category as well because he has done a phenomenal job this season. And like I say, the icing on the cake's getting the Europa League football. I haven't seen Sunderland. I turned 40 in May, and I haven't seen Sunderland in Europe. This is brand new territory for a lot of Sunderland fans because it's the first time for 52 years. And it's just this, you can go on and say, we'll do a season review next year. Will we have as good a season next year? Probably not. We'll probably be down in your bottom halves because we'll be playing the Thursday Sunday thing, and it will affect us because we need the squads in depth and everything like that. But Christ Almighty, we might be playing Milan next year, and they can stop singing that stupid song every day. Mackin in Milan, you know what I mean? Wherever we go, we're going to enjoy. We're going to sell out. We're going to enjoy ourselves. I don't think we'll end up in a relegation battle. I think we'll be far from it, but we may have to take on a chain, finish 12th or 13th or something. But my God, what a season it's going to be next year! It's just, and as I say, going back to when I started this podcast, we just got into the Championship. It's been 3 years, so it's just mad. It's just absolutely crazy, mate. But just class. And you know what I said before about Brentford, we have deserved it. We've deserved it. We've been good all season, and we've given sides, like I say, some good sides a real test. And I think we can do it again next year.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I remember, the early it was the Michael Beale season, and you'd had enough by February. It was turgid football. It was that, and then
2 years ago, mate. 2 years ago.
Look at the speed of sort of the turnaround, and not only that, it's given hope. I think to if we go back 12 months, everyone was going, is anybody going to come up from the Championship and be able to stay up? That was the question, because the gap was seemingly so far. And I think Sunderland's going to be a real blueprint for people to look at how they went about it. I mean, Leeds have done well as well, but to look at, okay, wow, this is possible if you're well managed, if you make the right signings, if you trust in what you have, your manager's good, and you kind of have that structure, that the possibility's there to reach these kind of heights. I mean, there's only, I think, Wolves maybe did it once, come straight up and got it, but a couple of giggling schoolboys in the bottom there.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Dan hiding his face in shame.
You need to feel well, I'm back.
I think you're right.
Go in.
I think you're right, and I think, and this is why I do worry a little bit about the sides that are coming up, because what we did is quite impressive. We signed Granit Xhaka, and I can't see Coventry and in all the best will in the world, because I don't want all three of them to go back down. So I think it's I think it's counterproductive for the Premier League. I really do. I wanted Burnley to stay up this year. I wanted Leeds to stay up. Out of all of them, I'd have preferred Leeds to go down, but I wanted all three to do a good job. And because I think the Championship is better than what people give it credit for, but you have got to spend money, and you know what Doug King said for Coventry, saying we may not have to spend money or anything like that. You've got to spend money, and you've also got to stay true to what you are as well. What we were last season was a side that was difficult to beat, who didn't score many goals, but when we got the opportunity to score them goals, we took it. And that's what we've done this year. We haven't had many. Our XG's shocking. Our XG's like bottom three, but it goes to prove. And I say this all the time. You hear me say this on every week on podcasts. The only stat that matters is the final score, and our chance to score ratio is probably up there as the best. So, but yeah, we'll talk about another team now, because I'll be here till 11 after.
This is it. The Sunderland season review is well in, but
it's worthy for podcasts on its own, mate. To be fair, but we'll yeah.
This is it. Maybe we'll revisit in a month or half time when we're looking for something to talk about. But someone who's not here who would want to turn this into another podcast season review, because our Heathers Bournemouth is bloody going to Europe as well. Yeah, it's going to be jet setting. They're going to be jet setting everywhere. These two. We're not going to have them available. They'll be here and everywhere on European tours. But it was Bournemouth, and they had a fantastic season themselves. Brilliant with all their youngsters as well. Youngsters coming in. They lost Semenyo midway through the season. Agreement, I think, as you put in the chat as well. The manager is now confirmed. Iriolo is Liverpool manager, which is a shame. I liked him. So this might be the last bit of genuine praise that you might get for a little while. But what a tremendous season for Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think he's done a disgusting job in real. I wouldn't rate him at all.
He's terrible.
Yeah,
good manager's out of paper bag.
No, in all seriousness, though, I think the job he's done at Bournemouth, whether it's just this season or since he's been there since the start, is nothing short of phenomenal. I think if you went into the start of the season with what Bournemouth had to deal with losing 3 of the 4 key defenders and having to replace that and deal with it, and be as successful as they have been, I don't think many people would have expected that. And they signed Krupi, young lad who's come in and scored 13 goals in his first season in the Premier League is just phenomenal. I mean, that summarises it as best I can about Bournemouth. I mean, there isn't enough praise you can really heap on them. I think they've done a phenomenal job with, obviously, the scouting, the budget that obviously they work to is not going to be as big as what everyone else's is, but they keep sustaining these top 10 positions, so they're accruing something in terms of money, so they will have a bit to spend in the summer. It's just a shame that Iriola's not going to be there to see it, really, to see all this hard work. Well, he will see it, probably on Match of the Day, but he won't see it on a weekly basis from the bench. But yeah, I think Bournemouth deserve all the plaudits for getting that top 6 finish and really pushing the top 5 for Champions League places right until the very end, really, because Liverpool weren't really at the races at the end of the season, and if Brentford beat them and other things go their way, Bournemouth could have got into the top 5, and we even a bigger story than it currently is, Bournemouth being in Europe next year. Very interested to see what they do in the summer, because they will have to obviously add to the squad to deal with Europe. But with the scouting that they've had recently, who's to say that they can't add more success next year and have another top 10 finish? I wouldn't rule it out.
And as Heather said many a time on the pod, they were decimated at the start of the season. They lost their keeper and 3 of their, starting centre backs from last year. And we now know Senesi's going as well. I've seen links to Spurs, I think, for Senesi the last couple of days. But and then on top of that, then Semenyo goes, who's arguably was the best player in the Premier League in the first half of the season. He's gone on to Manchester City, rebuild, and it hasn't stopped them. They've seen great performances from Alex Scott, Evan Nilsson's that have been in there. Tavernier's been excellent as well. Then you've got this kid Rayan. I mean, they found another gem as well in him. Just incredible, and just all over. I mean, Dan, the ceiling for Bournemouth just continued to raise. This was a club not that long ago that were on the verge of not existing. You know what I mean? There were moments away out of the Football League, but also, financial troubles. What a turnaround. And, what do you make of this Bournemouth rise?
It just goes to show you don't have to have a flashy toilet bowl sort of stadium like Spurs to, be trying to be classed as a top 6 club. Bournemouth have managed to do that on, the credibility they've got. Their stadium is probably the thing that lets them down. It's very League One standard, but however, the football on the pitch is nothing short of brilliant. I've got to give it to Iraola because if Burnley under Vincent Kompany had beaten Bournemouth at the Vitality, Iraola, careful how I pronounce that name then, basically was on for the chopping block. I think the owners had flown in from America and everything else, and lo and behold, Burnley rolled out the carpet to let him keep his job, and he's gone on to be successful. So I'd like to say that he can thank Burnley in his parting speech. But you know what? This is a manager who said he was homesick. He also said that he wanted his kids to learn, the native language, and clearly the native language is Scouse.
I was going to say, yeah.
It is very, very, very different language.
Spanish Scouse twang will reign again.
It's this Rafa Benitez, Pepe Reina all over again. Bournemouth would have a fantastic season. As Simon says here, they're doing well. They're expanding the stadium. Yes, they are. Absolutely great for the club as well, that they're kind of being able to sort of follow that through, and the money that they're getting, and also the way that they're able to, as you said, that scouting network is becoming such a massive thing for teams like Bournemouth, like Brighton, the way they're running the club, being able to move players on, move it through, and they've got European football as well. So, absolutely fantastic for them, and exciting times ahead for Bournemouth as well. Right, we're going to hit the top 5 with a team that have just stolen the previous team's manager. Arne Slot is no more, despite the fact that they were sticking with him. No, don't want that Xabi Alonso. Oh, no, we're not sticking with him. It is Iraola. I mean, Liverpool season, and I'll come to you, champions last year, spent a fortune over the summer to rebuild, and they finished in 5th, angry with their manager. It's all... it's Grimmy's turn to smile, but what happened for Liverpool?
We've said it on this podcast quite a few times. They didn't improve in areas where they needed to improve. The fact that they're for me their best centre midfielder was playing right back the vast majority of the season shows how badly they got it wrong. In Dominic Szoboszlai, who I think is a phenomenal footballer, he was playing right back. They signed. I can't remember the guy's name from Bournemouth. His name, it didn't quite work. It hasn't quite worked out, has it? They've got an aging defensive lost Canate now. He's going to Real Madrid. It's but to sign 2 strikers because Newcastle want to decide they want to keep the other one. But never mind. I do think they've been a little bit unlucky with Isak and Ekatike not being fit together pretty much all season. Because I do think they're both excellent strikers. Obviously, Isak showing how good he is last night with his Sweden goal. If you haven't seen it, make sure you see it because it's a phenomenal goal. And Ekatike has got that X factor about him, hasn't he? But Arne Slot's just his football's turgid, isn't it? It's like not good at all, and they do expect better there, and it's going to be a different. It's going to be completely different, Liverpool team next year. But obviously Salah going and everything like that. It'll be they've got to bring in some big players, haven't they? They've got to bring in some players as well, and I think Wirtz needs to have a better season. It depends on how good his World Cup is, but he's got to hit the ground running next year. Getting Areola in, I think, is a very, very good appointment. I really do. I know it's probably like maybe Liverpool fans not think it's not that big appointment that they wanted, but I think he's a great manager. I really do. And, they're looking at there, we mentioned Junior Krupi before. Getting him at Liverpool would be massive. So plenty to work on because they might be losing the likes of Alisson as well. So they're going to have to bring in a lot of players, but plenty to work on. Another season, pre-season where they're going to be spending a lot of money has to work next year because 5th place for a side who, let's not forget as well, they've won the first 5 or 6, haven't they? But to finish 5th for a side who looked very, very good last season is a big fall from grace, to be fair.
Yeah, massive drop off. I suppose that's why I'm a bit, disappointed with Areola going there because I do think it's a good fit. I do think, look at Liverpool losing 12 games. One that Bournemouth were difficult to beat, but they were electric when they were kind of going forward, and that suits, I think, the Liverpool style with potentially, what part of what they've had in the past that makes them exciting when that Anfield crowd gets up and they're on the kind of front foot with it. I think it'll be an interesting transition. But Grimmy, I think everyone was looking at Liverpool. They won the league last year. They've bought a lot of players. Isak's the final piece of the puzzle because they've got rid of Darwin Núñez up front, and then Salah's dropped off, and then there's arguments, and Salah doesn't like it. And Manchester United are beating them. Grimmy. Liverpool in 5th. How do you sleep at night?
Very, very well. Like a baby. It's been a shocking season really for Liverpool. I think spending for over £400 million and then getting 5th is kind of a joke, really. When you consider that they were comfortable title winners last year, not necessarily playing the most beautiful football, but definitely wasn't terrible football to watch last season. And again, the drop off from Salah, obviously Isak not having a proper preseason hurt them a lot, I think. Ekatike did step up in the early stages, but then sort of kind of fell away towards the end of the season. I know he picked up the injury late on, but yeah, it's just one of those seasons I think where it's just gone a bit wrong for Liverpool. And again, I think Areola will bring in a new energy and probably start to put things together again. And he's shown that even with lower spending, he can put good seasons together. So I think with the quality players he'll have at Liverpool, obviously, supposedly should be a step up over what he's had at Bournemouth. So obviously the expectations a lot higher. But I still think they'll have a decent season next season, regardless of who they do or don't bring in. But they obviously need to centre-back is their main priority, I think, because they've literally got Van Dijk and then I think Diego Leon's still got his ligament injury, so they've only got one fit centre-back, so they definitely need to get some centre-backs in, which they could have done during last summer when they had Mark Gray there on a plate for like 30-40 million and brought him in, him and Van Dijk would have been almost unstoppable, really. But yeah, real shame, isn't it?
This is it. Oh, they are. Simon's saying they must have known for a while they were going to sack him. So why did they not do it? Watch Alonso. I don't think they did. I think they really were kind of trying to sort of hang out with it, weren't they? And that's why they missed it. I think they just missed the Alonso boat, and then they've reconsidered.
I think something's changed. I think the past 10 days, I think something's changed. Either something's been said, or Slot's had his own plans, and the Liverpool board have had their own plans, and they've not agreed. And I think that's when the changes happened. I don't think when the Alonso rumours were all kicking up, I think it was all primarily based on people trying to get Slot out. I think Chelsea had basically had an open goal to go get Alonso in the Premier League, so I don't think anyone else realistically was going to get them, or get him, I should say. So yeah, I think something's changed, and sort of since the end of the season with Slot, that's made them go, yeah, we need to change course here, and that's why Iriola's the guy that they've picked.
I have indeed. Dan, what do they need to do this summer to get themselves back in there? Now they've got Iriola, because they did spend a lot of money last year.
Nothing.
And can they get back to challenging quite quickly and wipe the season off?
Personally, I don't think so. I think they're going to have a couple of seasons of consolidation. They're going to be sitting around this top 5 mark, and just sort of enjoying that for a period, a spell, which Grimmy is over the moon about. But for me, I don't even think the recruitment's been right. I think they've recruited in the areas, like I say, they've got some good youngsters coming through, but like I said, they've splashed so much money on a striker that just wanted out of Newcastle and has done absolutely nothing. It's just been absolutely crap. I think Van Dijk, like I say, as much of a good defender as he is, I think showed his defensive frailties this season as well. And I don't know whether that's because he's had to, play alongside different people every week, etc. But again, he's an aging centre back now. And what was it Jamie Carragher said? If you want to, leave the football before football leaves you. I don't usually quote Jamie Carragher unless I'm spitting out of a car window. But
what a reference!
But to be honest, no, I think that's what they need to do. They need to recruit wisely, and maybe then they'll get it right. But I think for me, it's going to be a few years of consolidation.
There we go. Liverpool in 5th, but they do make the Champions League because of the way it works. But the team that finished in 4th also make the Champions League because they won the Europa League. It is good evening. It is Aston Villa and the Europa League winning king, Unai Emery, picking up another Europa League, all with teams with the name Villa in it, which is just a football manager save if I've ever seen one. But Aston Villa in 4th place. I'll come to you, Grimmy, first on this one then. Aston Villa, 12 wins at home. Ollie Watkins in that was 16. Morgan Rogers, fantastic in that first part of the season. I'd say to manage a European run as well during the season and then still get top 4 after a really poor start. Let's not forget they were really poor early on, struggled to score, didn't they, for ages? Again, Emery's done a job with them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was going to be my first point. Like, let's not forget how bad that start was. They couldn't score a goal to save lives at one point, and I think it might have been the Sunderland draw, might have been the turning point.
Certainly was. Matty Cash.
Matty Cash, yeah. I think his little performance that he had there was an interesting one, to say the least.
He got Ronaldo sent off as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. Didn't he have like a dodgy tackle himself? I'm pretty sure he could have had a couple of buckets in that.
He stamped on Ronaldo's foot, and then Ronaldo reacted, kicked him in the balls, and then he got.
What are you going to do? But yeah, I think it's, considering the start they had and the momentum they picked up after that bad start was incredible. That at one point there was a tease of a title challenge, but not. I think it was when they beat Arsenal at home in like the last minute. And there was kind of a bit of hype from that, but they've just carried the momentum all the way through the season, really, once they picked it up. And yeah, like, what more compliments can you pay Emery, really, at this point? He's kept Villa consistently in Europe. He's won a trophy with them now, which really didn't really have to do because it's his trophy, really, isn't it? When we look back on the annals of the Europa League. But yeah, like it's a great season for Villa, and they're back in the Champions League. I just hope that they're able to spend a bit of money to sort of improve things and maintain this level, because I think Villa are one of those clubs that, with that investment, could easily be in the top 4 consistently if they got that. But obviously, PSR rules are such that it makes it difficult for them, so they have to operate a bit differently. But he keeps finding ways to do it, Unai, and that's why he's probably, I think, with the manager landscape now as it is, he's probably top 2, if not probably, in my eyes, probably the best manager in the league.
He's been super consistent with them. I'll wait till Mr. Luke is joining us in the chat. One of our non-league regulars has popped in. Say hello. Massive shout out to Sunderland, Villa, Palace, and Bournemouth for getting to Europe, and not forgetting Brighton. You go, yeah. I mean, the consistency for Villa, Groomy, just superb. Dan on Aston Villa. I mean, Ollie Watkins came good a bit more towards the back end of the season. After he had a kind of a quieter start. And do you think, say, that Europa League victory adds to them as well? What do you make the fact that England have been so successful in these kind of European competitions? Is it almost sort of going a bit more, it's expected? Because I think we all thought Aston Villa would win the Europa League, but it's still quite a massive feat and a lot of games to do it.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is, especially over the last couple of years where we've seen teams falter with their Premier League form, with adding these extra competitions. So it can be quite daunting. I think the change really happened. If you were to go back, do you remember when Fulham had that spell in Europe? I think since then, English teams have sort of looked at these European tournaments with, let's take some strength from this. Take it a game at a time. Who knows what will be? It's a chance to win a trophy. I've got to commend Aston Villa. Like I said, the way they've gone about it. I'll be playing against a Midlands team next season in Birmingham who's going to be chucking money at a division. Villa haven't, been throwing big amounts of money around. Like we stated, they've had to try and just nurture the talent that they've already got within it. And they're doing all right. They're doing all right. They punch above their weight every year, and that's all you can ask for as a club. I've got no bad word to say about Aston Villa. I think the season that they've had, Emery as a manager, again, some top players in there. Oh God, I nearly went down Harry Redknapp route there. Some top players in there. Oh God, he hangs out of his car window as well. But no, like I say, Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, again, he's a player that for me this year has been a little bit inconsistent, been in and out of form. But when he's in form, he's an absolute game changer, and probably is the one that lays him on a plate for Ollie Watkins to mop up. So, well done to Aston Villa, Champions League football, something to be really, really proud of.
I've heard some, noises around Morgan Rogers, perhaps as well, where his future lies as well. There's been some kind of noises.
Arsenal's after him, aren't
they? Which could be intriguing. But
how does he fit into that Arsenal squad, though?
He doesn't, does he? That's the thing. He doesn't, unless they're on about getting rid of Odegaard, I suppose.
I wouldn't be surprised if they, because I mean, he wasn't that kind of it. He's not been that ineffective the second half of the season, and I could see something that they could try with Eze and Rodgers maybe. But
for me, it's a bit like a Calvin Phillips to City sort of move. It's just not going to work out, and if anything, it could stagnate his career.
Yeah,
could be tricky. And what do you think of Villa's season?
I mean, I think it's been explained brilliantly by Grimmy and Dan. Really poor start, and the way that they've just. I mean, they just ended up blitzing everybody, didn't they? And getting up into the top 4. He's a hell of a manager, an absolute hell of a manager. I mean, I always liked Unai Emery because he turned Newcastle down. When the Saudis took over, I thought, you're a man for me, Unai. And to be fair, what he's done with them and winning that. I mean, that Europa League's so important to him, and he loves winning it and stuff like that. So, any tips for any teams who want to win the Europa League, just change your name to Villa. And he's going to come and he's going to win you a nice trophy. So fair play to him. He's a great manager, and they've got some cracking players like Yuri Tillemans this season's been outstanding for them. John McGinn as well, gets better and better. Ollie Watkins getting the goals as well. yeah, they're just a good side, really good side, and hopefully, they don't get bit by PSR again, and they can actually double down on it this season, and I can see them finish top 4 again next year if they can do that. But it'd be great to see them back in the Champions League, and fingers crossed they can get quite deep in that competition.
Yeah, coming up. We're going to stay. We're going to stay there. Grimmy, we're in the Champions League. We're back on. I'm not sure how this is going to work with our Tuesday Premier League show next week. We might have a trouble every now and again, but that's a problem I'm welcome to have. Manchester United, Grimmy, in 3rd place. If you'd have said this to us at the November, December point, would have probably laughed you out the building. But Michael Carrick's come in, and somehow, things look a bit brighter. Can we wish for more, Grimmy? Can we start wishing for more?
I think it's a little bit soon to start wishing for more.
I'm wishing for more. It might not happen. I'm going to wish.
Oh, I'm going to wish, yeah. Don't get me wrong. If title number 21 could come through the door next summer, I'd be more than happy. But in terms of next season, if you gave me something similar to this again, I would take it, I think, with having Europe on there now. But I think our season can basically be summarised as football is always described as it's a game of 2 halves. I think the first half of the season, there were some moments where it looked like we were going to start going again and start getting into some good form, and then we just kept dropping points against teams that really we shouldn't have. You think of the Wolves draw, you think of the West Ham draw, the Everton loss when Everton were down at 10 men for like 80 minutes of the game. And then obviously there's the 4-4 against Bournemouth, but again, looking back on what Bournemouth have done this season, probably not that bad a result. If we've conceded 4, we'll somehow get a point against them. But then obviously everything happened with Amram mid-season, sort of after that Leeds game with his comments, and kind of the door was opened and he was jettisoned out. And then we brought Carrick in after a couple of games from Fletcher, who was very kind enough to give Burnley a point at home, which was nice of Darren. Many props for that. And also, thanks to Burnley for giving Sesko some life in the season and sparking his end to the season as well.
Glad you brought it up, because it was going to hurt me to bring it up.
I'll bring it up for you, Dan, don't worry. And then when we brought Carrick in, it was kind of what was the expectation? There wasn't really one. It was have as good a season at the rest of the season as we can, maybe pick up some points against the bigger teams, maybe try and beat, Arsenal away if we can, get something against City first game, but we went and got 6 points out of 6 of those first 2 games. And then the run just kept on going. Yeah, there was a few iffy performances in between, but yeah, we just kept firing on all cylinders, really, and picking up points when we shouldn't have picked up points. Like that Everton game, I don't think we should have won that game by any stretch of the imagination, but somehow we found a way through. And yeah, there's big moments like the Sesko last-minute winner against Fulham is another big moment for us. And yeah, it's looking rosy. We'll see what we do in the transfer window. It's going to be a big summer again, like it always is with United. It's going to be a big summer. We need to bring in 5 or 6 players really to help deal and bulk that squad up to deal with Europe, as well as trying to stay in the top 4. Because again, we haven't really had. I can't even remember the last time we were back-to-back Champions League seasons. I think it's been a while. So yeah, like I can't speak high enough of what Carrick's done. I really didn't expect to have the end to the season that we've had. It's just a shame that the start of the season was as slow as it was at times, and then we've dropped silly points, because if we hadn't, and we'd maybe picked up some wins when we should have, we would have been a damn sight closer to that title race. But I'll take what I can get at this point. The top 3 finish will do me just nicely.
Yes, it's that step that they needed after that, and the expectations were to be battling. I mean, I think we felt that there was the possibility of a top 4 finish, particularly with no Europe, etc. But the way that it started is that was disintegrating pretty quickly. And the one thing I've said all season, I think they've been the most entertaining team to watch all season. Them and Bournemouth. I think there wasn't a single game I can remember, even say the 0-0s that we've had. A couple of, I think one with Sunderland, etc. Full of entertainment, full of things happening, and 2 teams of kind of going at it. And I think I'm with you, Grim. The squad needs bulking. And my worry was always that we're only 1 or 2 injuries away from a big drop-off, because that there is a stark drop-off between some of that first 11 and what's sat behind. a couple of interesting youngsters coming through, maybe not quite ready yet, but it's all centered around the assist magnifico, the man that everybody loves to hate, but you cannot deny the stats this season. Bruno Fernandes, who's stuck with us through thick and thin of all the nonsense, and has just been an absolute joy for us this season. One thing that I'm really enjoying is he's starting to get some of the plaudits that I get some of why people don't like him and rival fans, and you're going to have that, but he's starting to get, I think, a bit of the respect that his football and quality deserves. Because every time he's on the ball in that attacking area, he's creating stuff. And not just the assists. Look at the amount of chances he creates. And you just think that, it's by far more than anybody else in the Premier League. And it's just that in past seasons, you look at the season before, we didn't have anybody up front who could hit a barn door. We had bloody Hoyland and flipping, might as well have had Wout Weghorst up there, Dan. It wasn't happening.
Actual Hoyland and was it Diallo? Diallo would have been on the right, but again, I don't really say anything bad about Diallo. I think he's done great for us whenever he's been on the pitch. He always gives 100%, unlike what the other two did. So, yeah.
I mean, if you ever want to give him back to us, we'll
it's all right. We've got a couple more seasons, I think.
If he's sell by dates right now, we'll gladly have him back.
But I like the fact as well that front line's got options now as well. It's not just and you look at the teams. If you want to be trying to compete with where you want to get to, you look at City, you look at Arsenal winning the league. They've got options in those attacking spaces. That they're going to rotate and they're going to move and they're going to change. With Liverpool had it a little bit as well with their previous season. You need to have an option where you play a different way. You need a Sesko sometimes down the middle with a 9. You need Mbeumo as kind of playing that sort of false off of. You can play Ahmed on the right. You can play Cunha off the striker up front. Patrick Dorg, who sort of appeared from bloody nowhere in the second half of the season, that makes you think,
that goal against Arsenal,
who's this guy come from? You get those players coming through. And maybe now you just need a different option up front as well. But the midfield for me, I think, is going to be the big one this summer. Certainly is. I mean, Ederson pretty much is through the door, but I think I'm seeing him as maybe more of a kind of that third option as kind of a midfield. There's certain games he might fit, but Casemiro has suddenly turned into, a couple of seasons ago, everybody wanted him. He's past it. It's become so essential this year. He's been epic. So yes, what a season. And Dan, let you have your say. Anything else to make me and Gloomy feel good?
I mean, fantastic season. Fantastic second half of the season, only the first half. But good to see you happy, lads. I think we always want to see people happy. But you're right about Bruno, and I think Simon's probably put it in there. Like, brilliant footballer, but his attitude at times is just like, you just want to hit every other side will hit him. Yeah. But he's a wonderful, wonderful footballer. And do you know what? As well, I think you're right. His football's doing the talking more than his attitude and stuff like that. So that's good for him as well, to be fair. Do
you know what I think it is? I think he's a good leader in terms of talking to players. I think he reacts. He reacts on the pitch and in that kind of public eye. But I do think behind the scenes and everything you hear come out of the club, the way he talks to players and the way he does, I think he's that kind of leader. But I just don't think it comes across visually very well on the pitch.
I think it's because, and you see that with a lot of players who are, as quality as what he is, he demands a certain amount of, he demands better from everybody, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And sometimes those players haven't got that in them, and I think he just gets a little bit frustrated with that, which is understandable. But when he's like having a pop at young players, I don't like that. I don't like when players have a pop at young ones. I really don't. I mean, obviously they're still learning the way through, but you can't take it away. Record-breaking season for him. So many assists, as you said, so many chances created as well, and popped up with some goals as well. He's going to be on everyone's. He'll be the first person on everyone's fantasy team next season, isn't he? So fair play to them, and good to see he's back in the Champions League. To be fair,
this is it. Big moments ahead. And in terms of some seismic moves, we won't be seeing this gentleman on the slides as manager next season because the Pep Guardiola Manchester City era is over. It's over. It's gone. as is the Premier League. They didn't pull it back despite beating Arsenal and the celebrations around it. Arsenal then went on to do it, which we'll come on to it in a moment. Drinking bottles of tears and all of that jazz. But
karma's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
I know. You see something. Just don't. How many times we watched it when you? My one thing was always don't go early. Don't go until it's secured. Don't go early.
Do you remember what Claire's biggest thing is, Claire, on a Thursday night? Don't be a dick.
Exactly that. But so damn, Manchester City. It's in Harlem with 27 goals. They were better in the second half of the season. But I mean, when you can go out and buy Semenyo and Gahey in January, that helps a little bit to improve the team. But ultimately, just kind of short. And I guess first of all, just missing out, and secondly, what happens now? What are Manchester City without Pep Guardiola?
Yeah, let's not just forget as well. Okay, Pep Guardiola has done a fantastic job, but they haven't just lost Pep; they've lost that whole backroom staff as well. It's I think with a football club, we always seem to think that it's the main man who makes those big decisions, but it's those people behind him that also help navigate, the successes. So they're going to be a big miss to the club. So what sort of avenue are Manchester City going to be looking at? Okay, it's pretty much nailed on. It's going to be Maresca comes in. Again, I don't see that working for some reason. I just really don't. I think they've tried to go for someone. It's basically like, oh, well, we've just got Guardiola back, but off wish. It's like, it's not the same thing. It's not going to work. And like Grimmy says it there. Not Grimmy, Grummy, the other one. I'm just shit with vowels, mate. Sorry. It's a northern thing. But yeah, I just that's going to have been a big factor in Pep's decision for me personally. I think that's the reason why he's gone, that there's going to be something comes out very, very soon regarding these 115 charges, and a manager of Pep's credentials should go with his head held high after the job that he's done. And then people sort of don't talk about, well, it was Pep that was in charge during that moment and things like that. You know what? I don't like Arsenal, but I sort of don't want to see the same team winning it every year either. So there was an element of that, although in the end, remarkably, I didn't look that high up the league.
But yeah, what point of the season did you rule yourself out the title race then?
6th of August, I think it was. But yeah, it's, you know what a career that Guardiola has had, not just with City, with the other clubs he's done. I know that there's going to be certain people that say, yeah, but he's been handed these teams that have already got the quality. But I'm sorry, you've still got to get them to play. You've still got to get them tactically right. And he has done. Fair play to him. I think, again, I'm going to reiterate what I said about Liverpool. This is where, depending on what City suffer with this 115 charges, I think City might have to deal with being second best for a period now.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Ant? Do you think this is? I mean, we've seen it with other clubs. United with Ferguson. You've had it with Arsenal with with Arsene Wenger. These kind of long managerial appointments, and particularly losing the backroom staff as well, because that's kind of the whole culture of the club going. Do you think this is the start of a difficult period for Manchester City?
I mean, they've still got some absolute quality players there, but I mean. He's obviously gone for a reason, hasn't he? And I think it's got something to do with these charges. I think he knows something. But I do think he's one of, if not the best manager that's ever managed the Premier League. There's only him and Ferguson, I think. I think there's only Ferguson and him who could probably boast that. I think he's done what he's done for the Premier League as well has been magnificent. I have laughed at Simon's comments. I actually agree with what he said there. Like, at least we're not going to see teams trying to kick the ball off on the back when they're shit at doing it. I agree with that, actually. But he has left his mark on this league. He's had so many, so many different formation changes. I mean, that inverted fullback when John Stones was doing that a couple of years ago, it was just genius. I mean, he is, and the fact he's brought a lot of players on. You look at like the likes of Haaland, who's turned into a top quality footballer. Rodri as well, great striker. Semenyo, what he's done with Semenyo so far, and Semenyo's only been there a few months. Doku as well. He's just done some really, really good job. He's done a really good job. I think I'm glad he's chosen now. I'm glad he's gone out on his own terms and not. I'm glad he's resigned and they haven't sacked him. I really am, because I think he deserves that. As far as the season goes, real mixed bag from them, because they kind of got themselves into a position where they were the favourites and then blew it against Everton. And we all thought they were going to just go on and win it. And that's what people were expecting, because City is so good at doing that and ended up losing it. But, hopefully he has a rest, and then hopefully he gets Burnley back to the promised land.
This is it. Vincent told him how lovely it was, you see. That's what it was. He's still in touch. Grimmy, let you have yourself. Manchester City, not quite there in the Premier League. How do you rate their season? It was a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I think what I said pretty much puts the nail on the head, really. I think it was a bit of a mixed bag. I think bringing in Semenyo and Gueye in January kind of gave them the ability to solidify and kick on and have a title challenge. Obviously, it didn't end up going their way, but I think if you were City at the start of the season, with how shaky they were at times, if you said you were still going to have a title charge towards the back end of the season with the team you've got, with a couple of additions, I think they would have taken it. But yeah, obviously he's won the 2 cups, so he's not leaving trophyless. And yeah, it's just one of those things. I think Arsenal probably top to bottom have a better squad, and that's what's got them the title in the end over City. And City can go and invest in the summer, probably similar to what United have to do, get a midfield in, probably buy 1 or 2 top midfielders, and I think they'll be there or thereabouts again next season. I don't think they'll be far away from it at all.
There we go. And so Pep Guardiola leaves. He does have trophies in his hand, but the trophy he doesn't have in his hand this year is it's finally in the hands of Arsenal, and it's in the hands of Mikel Arteta. We'll come to the Champions League in a minute, because we probably do have to discuss that, because that was obviously the weekend. But we'll start with the Premier League. Dan, do you want to go first on this one? Arsenal finally getting over the line. The pressure was immense from game to game. I mean, that run at the end, I think, was helpful for the pressure that was kind of on them, perhaps. But ultimately, I'm always the best team wins the league, because that's where they are, the team that win first. And you can argue about this and that and all the rest of it, but you kind of have to give that the doff your cap at the end. Arsenal got over the line.
They did. You sort of said it there. You do have to sort of give them the credit that they deserve for the job they've done on the pitch. No matter how much you think Arteta's practically been a 12th player hugging the touchline, no matter how much you think Arsenal should have had, red card central, no matter how much Gabriel decides to drop under the pressure of his own goalkeeper and still try to claim for a free kick from a corner. It's, you've got to laugh. But, I quote Richard Scudamore, we want a different name on that trophy every 6 years. It's clearly Arsenal's time to get their name on it. But yeah, fair play to Arteta. If the grass wasn't too high, it was too low. If it wasn't too cold, it was too hot. However, he didn't have anything to moan about the trophy. He didn't see any dents in it or anything. There was nothing to whinge about when he had that in his hands. So, but no, fair play. I'm not bitter at all. I just think they deserve it. They do deserve it. But again, it's going to be a struggle for them to try and match that again next season, because they really have had to dig deep in the second half of the campaign to get it over the line. And I think that's why it burst the bubble the other night, because they've sort of done that and sort of partied hard, and that just didn't really mean anything come that.
Yeah, and so if you look back, I mean, they've kind of made the tweaks, haven't they? Because there was question marks thrown at them where in the last couple of seasons when it's got to this kind of final stage, and and having that grit and that momentum to kind of get over there. And there were shaky moments, but to be honest, there always are in a title race. If anybody who's going to go in for it, there's always a couple making sure they got there. The City charge just came a little bit too late for me. I just felt that if they'd have been on the shoulder a little bit earlier, and that might have been a different kind of pressure. But Arsenal saw it through, and ultimately, as much as people might question the football that they're watching, they might question the set pieces were phenomenal. The question, they took advantage to an extent of a bit of a loophole, should we say, in terms of consistency and some of the refereeing across those corners and those set pieces. However, they were both brilliant at it. Gabriel Magalhaes is a nightmare at both ends from a set piece and an attacking threat, and they take advantage of every little bit you are, which is football at the end of the day. And some of what you saw from Arsenal this season as well, everyone's questioned they didn't have the dark arts, they were a bit soft, they were this, that, and the other. We can't say that this season. They certainly tried to take every advantage to do it, and that's the game. People might say not the most exciting team to watch, but ultimately they won the Premier League. That was their objective. That's what they've gone about it, and that's what Arteta has against his name, and Arsenal's against it. So, and I mean, Arsenal, they did the job. They got it done.
Yeah, they did. And as much as it was a little bit unpleasant to watch, you like to see your champions, play some nice football and stuff like that, which they do. But what they're doing effectively, they do. They do that well. To be fair, and they've only conceded 27 goals in the league, which is tremendous. They've got a great goalkeeper, absolutely fantastic goalkeeper in Raya. Two of the best centre backs in the world in Gabriel and Saliba. I think they've got, I think they've been excellent at, some excellent midfielders, signed well. As much as Gyökeres is coming for some stick, he's got 14 goals, which is still, in the league, which is good for me. And I think he'll do well next year once they get used to how well he can play as well. I think Leandro Trossard has been outstanding for them as well, and popping up with goals. Big moment player. I think he's been, and he's out of contract, so I wonder if they are going to sign one or something. I think the only disappointment for them would be Saka this season. I don't think he's been firing on all cylinders, and hopefully he's just keeping himself for the World Cup. But yeah, I do like a new team to win the league, and they haven't won it for that long, so you can't really begrudge them. But teams will find them out next season, because there's only certain amounts you can do this. You can't really keep this up. And their luck will run out as well, because I think they have been a little bit lucky with a few VAR calls. West Ham away, very lucky with that. Even though, I think the decision was right. No, the decision probably wasn't right. There was probably a foul of the keeper. There was a foul on like 3 or 4 of the West Ham players beforehand. But, I think they're going to have to adapt to the league, because I think the league will be a little bit different next year. So but fair play to them, and they got over the line. Arteta's done a good job. Arteta's finally got his trophy. Would I call him manager of the year? Probably not. But that's all I can say.
That's definitely it. Simon's sitting on the fence when it comes to Mikel Arteta. Very much looking forward to seeing him at the CBS next season for sure.
Well, he's already said he's not spending any money, so I don't think he'll be building the wall.
So, Grimmy, shall I come on to you with the Champions League final, I suppose?
By the way, just quickly before Grimmy speaks as well, that is nailed on. Coventry got Arsenal first. That is nailed on.
Isn't it? Yeah. First game of the season, you can see it already. So at Champions League, Grimmy, of course, we come to Sunday night. They were playing Paris Saint-Germain, scored early through Kai Havertz, and then sort of tried to contain PSG, which is difficult for anybody in world football to do with what Paris Saint-Germain are and kind of what they went about. Paris Saint-Germain equalised by a penalty. It then went 2 penalties, and Paris Saint-Germain won, and Arsenal didn't get across the line. But I know everyone's jumping on it and piling on it because it's Champions League final and it's throwing it, but it's almost a bit kind of to defend the fact that they've won the Premier League, I suppose, and drop over it. But ultimately, I suppose, for Arsenal, the Champions League was a bit of a bonus if they're looking at it that way. Disappointed, of course, devastated, but a bit of a Brucey bonus.
I think the disappointment's obviously going to be because they got to the final and they've got as close as a penalty shootout to winning it, and being a trophy they haven't won before. It's obviously a massive historic moment for them if they get that over the line. What I will say about the final is that I think for the about first 60 minutes, I think until the penalty, I think Arsenal kept PSG quiet. I don't think PSG had an answer to how Arsenal were cancelling out. They kept doubling on Kvaratskhelia on the left hand side with Saka and Nkapie. I think that's his name. I think they kept doubling up on him, keeping him quiet, and it save on the other side as well. I think tactically, the first 60 minutes, they played it absolutely beautifully. They hit him on the counter early, got that early goal and kept him quiet. Once that penalty went in, it was kind of end-to-end at that point, and it could have gone either way, both then in the normal time and in extra time. And I think, in all honesty, I think that Champions League final encapsulated what Arsenal need to change. They need to change themselves from being this ultra defensive team that keeps teams out to being able to go to these big teams and in these big occasions and going on the front foot. Because if they're going to win multiple Premier League titles with this team, which I think they fully well can, they've definitely got the potential to do that, they have to go more on the front foot and beat these bigger teams and go to these big occasions and get the points. They lost to City at the City ground and were in the game, but they weren't nearly as positive as they probably needed to be to get those 2 or 3 goals that they needed. And I think that's the next step in the evolution of Arteta and Arsenal, is they need to... It might not necessarily go the way they want it to next season when they try to take that step, but it's going to be this first step in that process of becoming, a consistent contender for the Premier League, a consistent contender for the Champions League. I think they have to try and find a way to become a more attacking team rather than being sort of focused on defence. So,
well, considering that spine as well, Raya, Gabriel, Saliba, Declan Rice is as good as anything in world football to have. So you've got that base there to be able to try and be a bit expensive and to try and work it. So
I think
evolution.
I think a big part of it will be what happens with the creative outlet of Arsenal in the summer. We've touched on it before with Odegaard. I wouldn't be surprised if Odegaard does get moved on if they bring someone else in. Like if they bring in someone that is basically going to be fighting with as a week in, week out for that role. I also think they'll get a left winger in as well. I think as good as Trossard has been, if Trossard's not played, it's really shown when he's not been in there in the big games to play, when Martinelli's had to come in. I don't think Martinelli's really stepped up the way he should have by this point in his career. And I think they could go out and get a left winger. I think that would make a world of difference. They might also go in for a central midfielder because I think Zubamendi's kind of fallen off the second half of the season. So as good as it is for them to have won the Premier League, and obviously it is good for them because they haven't won it since 2004, there's still areas that they can improve. And I think Arsenal will, because they've got that title now, will go and back Arteta in the transfer window and build on what they've got. And they'll have the money to do it because they've stayed in the Champions League until the final and they've won the Premier League, so they're going to get the maximum amount of money that can possibly get out of every tournament they've been in. So, yeah, I think Arsenal can kick on. If they make the right signings, they can kick on and go win the league next year. But they have to go from being defensive minded to we're going into this game going to win it ourselves by scoring 2, 3, 4 goals. And I think that's what they need to do to take that next step.
I'd be interested. Is that becomes the goal to then be like, right now we need Europe, we want Europe, because if you look at the Premier League next season, there's a lot of teams in that kind of transitional phase again. I think we said it last season, but even more so this season because Man City, Pep Guardiola gone, massive questions. Man United, Michael Carrick now on a permanent basis, but European football, lots to do, still a big gap to bridge. Liverpool, what state are they in to kind of, who's going to come up and challenge the consistency level Arsenal have now got to be able to do it? And therefore then, the Champions League, you need some luck as well, to get to the final. It's not easy to do. There's been teams and been great teams that have struggled to get there and could get there consistently. You can walk into PSG in the quarterfinals. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that threat that sits in that competition. So there's the possibility that, Arsenal could, look at that, or someone comes out the pack and surprises them, and then how do they respond to being champions? A lot of questions coming through, but for now they're just going to enjoy the moment, aren't they? They can enjoy the win,
and they fully deserve to enjoy the moment. Like, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a title win. If we somehow win the title next season, I will be the most insufferable man on this podcast for a good 4 or 5 months. I'm not going to lie. I've just put that.
Rumi's turning up on every show just to mention it for weeks.
It'll be non-league. It'll be EFL. It'll be the women's football. I'll be all over it. Don't you worry, sunshine. I'll even do podcasts on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays to cover a 7-day basis. But that being said, if you look at what City and Liverpool this past 10 years, even Chelsea, where they won the title a couple of times, and obviously United in the heyday, when they went and played the big teams, there wasn't a fear that they weren't playing to just hold out for a draw, or maybe if we play defensively, we'll get something out of this game. To become a great Premier League team, which this Arsenal team has every ability to do so, they've got to take that next step, and that's going to the likes of City, going to Anfield, going to Old Trafford and winning by 1, 2, 3 goals and being convincing in those performances. And I think that's the next step.
Okay.
But enjoy it, Arsenal fans.
Enjoy your moment. But I think that takes us brilliantly to the end of what has been a very long but very, I think, enjoyable season review. Hopefully for everybody, we've covered it all. This is, of course, the final Absolute Football Premier League show of the season, because we are moving into World Cup mode as of next week as we do these season reviews. So it's just a time to thank my wonderful people with me, not just for tonight, but for the whole season, of course. We've had Ant with us all season for his first Premier League full season. What a season it's been. The wonderful Dan, who's, of course, welcome anytime. The fact that Burnley aren't here doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You can come and visit us whenever you like. We're here. We're going to be here.
I'll have to pick a second team.
Yeah. It's been lovely to have Grimmy as well with us. Thank you, Grimmy, for your support this season. And of course, we've got Rebecca and Heather and Shah's been on with us as well, and guests and people that have come. So thank you. And thank you, more importantly, as well to everybody in the chat that's helped support us through the season on a Tuesday, and as well with all the other shows. So if you don't know, this is where you find us. We are usually Monday to Thursday, 8:30 live. But we've obviously at the end of the season, bit of season reviews, just keep tabs on what's going on because we will be moving to World Cup. There will be some interview content as well coming out over the summer. But we've done all the non-league reviews. The EFL show starts their reviews. That's going to be a bit different because we're trying to get that in before the World Cup. So I think we've got League 2 on Thursday. We might be doing Championship, maybe even on Sunday. And I think we've got next Tuesday, maybe the EFL show as well for League 1. So there's plenty going on for EFL. Shah's getting them all done, smashing through them. Freya's back on Wednesday, tomorrow as well. They've got an FA Cup and World Sevens as well. There's so much women's football going on. So they've got plenty to talk about for a little while yet. But we will be doing World Cup. We're sitting down to do our preview this week, which will be out at some point next week. We've all been given our teams. Grimmy's heavily researching. Which can you give a little tidbit as to one of the teams you're talking about, Grimmy? Any?
Oh, you're asking a question there. I wouldn't like to reveal too much.
It's not doing too much. There you go.
I can give you a group if you want.
Go on then. Tell us a group that Grimmy will be covering.
C. I have
Group
one of my groups.
C.
Group C.
I know. You get to talk about Ballon d'Or Scotty, and Big Shanks. How lucky are you? You've got the dream scenario. Dream scenario you have.
Brazil, Scotland, what a game, man. What a game.
What a dream. But we are the Absolute Football Podcast. Do hit that like, subscribe, and all that jazz to support the channel. We much appreciate it. But you need to follow these wonderful people. Ant, where can everybody find you?
Ant_Watson on Twitter and Blue Sky. Thanks very much for having us this season and look forward to it next year.
Magic. Dan, where can everybody find you and Burnley manager news?
Yeah, it's been an incredible year. You can find me at Turf Morehouse on all social media. The one thing I do want to add is as well that in regards to it being the Premier League, thoughts go out to the likes of John Barnes, Kenny Dalglish, and Kevin Keegan as well with their ongoing cancer battles. So thoughts going out to them. But other than that, catch us at Turf Morehouse for some championship content.
Magical. And Grimmy, where can everybody find you and what you're up to as well as World Cupping?
I mean, that's going to be it for basically the next month is World Cup, and a bit more World Cup, I think. So Grimmy16 on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. And then, be doing recording the preview later this week and then starting the watch-alongs next weekend for me once I'm back from holiday from Bournemouth, Scotland.
He's doing his actual research, you see. He's actually going there. Going there. That's how seriously. That's how seriously he's taking it.
I will not be wearing an England shirt in enemy territory, though. That much I'm not bringing.
No, you'll get killed.
Dangerous stuff. And you can catch me at Sam Absolute FBL. And if you're looking forward to the World Cup, I've done some previews. I've got some group previews over on my at Sam Absolute FBL YouTube channel. Dropped this, I think it was earlier today. Group H, which stands for hell yeah, what a group in the World Cup of Group H. Bit of Spain. bit of Uruguay. We've got a bit of Saudi Arabia and a bit of Cape Verde. So there you go. How exciting! What a team! Get yourself a prize with what's going on with Cape Verde and how they're probably not going to win that group, but enjoy them nonetheless. But for now, thank you for a wonderful season. Have an extraordinary great summer, and if you're sticking with us for the World Cup, we will see you for that very soon. All the best. Ciao for now.